President Trump's fitness for office is now the top story in the country.
So while Hillary coughed and stumbled her way through the campaign trail for months, CNN lectured us for months about how we were all outrageous conspiracy theorists who are peddling fake news for merely questioning her physical health.
With that in mind, watch Sean Hannity spread conspiracy theories about Hillary Clinton's health. That was reckless speculation by Sean Hannity. She is now physically fit to be president, and there's no doubt about that.
But when some crackpot writer known for inventing fake quotes, who admits in his own book he's not certain the content is true, distance diagnoses Trump as being mentally ill, the same guy, CNN's Brian Stelter, says it's incumbent upon journalists to treat it with credibility.
But many Americans are worried, and journalists need to cover that. It is fair to ask about his fitness. Conspiracy theories about Hillary Clinton's health. That was reckless speculation. It is fair to ask about his fitness. Reckless speculation. It is fair to ask about his fitness. Reckless speculation.
The New York Times' Maggie Haberman said Trump fanned conspiracy theories about Hillary's health, but despite admitting that parts of Wolf's book are, quote, flat out false, she's doing exactly the same thing about Trump's mental health.
Something is unleashed with him lately. I don't know what is causing it. I don't know how to describe it.
Over a dozen lawmakers met with a Yale psychiatry professor for 2 days, after which she told them Trump was falling apart under the stress. What was one of her primary pieces of evidence for this claim? That Trump CNN wrestling tweet from 6 months ago. Well, I might as well end the video now, because that's a watertight argument, isn't it? Case closed. Trump's not crazy. You are. You've been driven crazy by Trump. Many of you were crazy enough to believe that a joke about Trump watching the Gorilla Channel for 17 hours a day was real. That's how maniacally obsessed you are about Trump. From 2 scoops of ice cream to the way he drinks from a cup to Trump's well-done steak with ketchup. You just can't stop thinking about every minute detail of his existence. Seriously, the media is like a jilted ex-lover that Trump dumped, who is now relentlessly stalking him. They even hide in bushes to try to catch a glimpse of his golf swing. They create delusional alternate reality websites in which Hillary won the election. These are not well people. You want to talk about crazy? I'll tell you what's crazy. Rioting in the streets because you don't like an election result. That's crazy. Trying to shoot up a baseball field full of Republican congressmen. That's crazy. Burning down college campuses because you don't like someone's opinion. That's crazy. Thinking hurricanes are Mother Nature punishing Americans for voting for Trump.
You know, you're watching these hurricanes now, and it's hard, especially while promoting this movie, not to feel Mother Nature's rage.
That's crazy. Holding Trump's mock severed head aloft with a deranged sociopathic look on your face. That's crazy. Screaming at the sky like escaped mental patients because you're so triggered by Trump.
Oh, we should film it.
That's crazy. Endorsing a group that's listed as a terrorist organization by the DHS and FBI. That's crazy. Thinking that Trump's tweets are going to make the planet uninhabitable.
We all live in a world that could literally be ended in terms of a habitable planet because of this sad man's insecurity.
That's crazy. And all of that craziness was brought to you by the mainstream media's hysteria. The same people responsible for 1 solid year of rampant, fevered, anti-Trump madness are now calling Trump crazy. I mean, talk about projection. You want to see crazy? Don't look at Trump. Look in the mirror. And you're literally having to take medication to treat your Trump derangement syndrome. You're probably not the most credible voices to be calling other people mentally ill when you look like you've just escaped from a straitjacket after bouncing around a rubber room for a few hours. Maybe you shouldn't be questioning others' psychological...
That's right. The full report's on Infowars.com. We have giant news on the other side. Stay with us. Well, the big headline on newswars.com, as well as drudgereport.com, China may halt purchases of U.S. Treasuries, markets rattled. We can pull the CNBC up and show folks the latest with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But when you pull back from this, think about it. A foreign communist dictatorship can then dictate what's happening inside our nation and drive down the stock market substantively right now. The S&P's down 4.67, NASDAQ 26.34, and then it just goes on from there. Let's pull the Dow Jones Industrial Average up for folks right there. We're watching on television. Think about that. China has a 15% corporate tax. We had a close to 40. We cut ours to theirs. They go to 0. Tell U.S. companies and others become state-connected, controlled by the Communist Party that takes Christians and Buddhists and houses them in facilities and harvests their organs, executes them for their religion and sells their organs, executes Christians and Buddhists for secretly conducting their religion in their own homes, and kills them. Not a word out of Hollywood, not a word anywhere. And now the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 20.45, still well above 25,365. And without even looking this morning, I knew that I would go look and find pundits saying, look, Trump's policy on China has already hurt the markets, as they cheerlead an attempt to tank the markets to try to kill the nationalism that we've rekindled. Incredible. Communist China comes to our private Federal Reserve that set up this monetary policy to put us into debt, and they become the biggest owner of U.S. fiat treasuries, so that the communist Chinese, the greatest mass murderers in history, can hold us by the short hairs. Oh, but instead we get to hear about Russia, who's fended off the globalist takedown operation, is trying to stabilize its population and put fires out. If Russia's like a ship, big old ship, long history, culture, past, it's got smoking, burning holes all over it, but at least it's not run by the people that blew the holes in it. And that's its crime. We, on the other hand, run by Hollywood, run by the communist Chinese, run by the folks that hate flyover country as their religion. In all their internal tapes and diaries and admissions, they hate Christians. They hate poor black people. They hate poor white people, poor Hispanics. They're elitists. They're feudal lords. And they play us all off against each other. And then you've got Trump saying, we're just going to match the tax you have so that it's more fair. And they go, we're going to 0. You don't hear Bernie Sanders or Hillary complaining that communist China went to 0 corporate tax for the big, rich, fat cats. Oh, no. It's the Trump 15 points to give trillions to rich people. No, the rich people wrote the law to move it offshore. And I know you know that. But just to watch them prey on the economically illiterate public in this country, and to watch Owen Schroyer go out, and every person he talked to supported Trump's tax plan when they told him it was for Bernie, and that Bernie supported it. But as soon as they told him it was Trump's, they said, you're fake news, you're a liar, except for one black guy. And he said, okay, I'm ignorant. I need to get informed. All the delicate genius white people, and we just continue to see this, are really, it's actually what they say, that white people are kind of the problem, liberal white people. Because I'm serious, we go out, we interview them, they're the worst. And they're always the cheerleaders wanting to virtue signal how they know everything and they're great and blah, blah, blah. Now, those young ladies were somewhat nice. You know, this older lady just says fake news. And he says, well, thank you for talking to me. I appreciate you. And shakes her hand, and she just bowls past him and says, fake news. No, we read to you his tax plan. You said you supported it because Bernie Sanders was behind it. And then when you heard that it wasn't, you hissed and ran off. Utilities cutting rates cite benefits of Trump tax reform. Yeah. 9 years ago, 50+% of our power was from coal. It was down to like 30% under Obama. You let that power come back on the market, turn those clean plants back on again, and you're talking about trillions in the next decade of tax cuts. As Trump said, getting rid of regulations, bringing back the coal. All of this is the equivalent of tax cuts. And then you get real tax cuts on top of that. Now, let's shift gears, though. We're going to be covering this more. We'll get into the 7.6 magnitude quake that struck the Caribbean and all the latest stuff. There's just so much. But the whole DACA thing, Trump is smart about business. He's already frozen hundreds of thousands of Hondurans that are here illegally and shipping them back. And hundreds of thousands of people that are here illegally from Guatemala. I mean, they're being shipped back en masse. And upwards of 70% reduction of illegals coming across. But then he says, like he always said during the campaign, no to DACA in its present form. If we have judges that see the documents that you were here as a child and that you have lived here for over a decade and you're not a criminal, we're going to vet you, then we can do it. But no DACA in its present form. What does Ann Coulter do? What is this so-called, and I'm not attacking Ann Coulter, but the guardians of conservatism. They go, Trump's going back on his word. He says he would look to have DACA if it's redone and if they vet the people. Remember how super conservative Christians, who I love to death, and they have the right to really be out there in the culture war, telling people what they think, and okay, that's fine, but they believe the media when they said Trump hates gay people and he's a homophobe and he wants to kill them and all this, even though he had Peter Thiel at the thing and people weren't waving rainbow flags and all this being inclusive. The media lied, and a lot of conservatives piled on going, well, he hates, he hates these people. Then when Trump did what he said he would do and was inclusive, they flipped out. And it's the same thing happening here again, where he says DACA in its present form lets people bring in even their second cousins, and you got 45-year-old men that we've deported repeatedly with a fake name, claiming they were born here, and you're gone, okay? You're gone. And you can bring your mother or your father or siblings. But let's debate that. You can't bring 10 deep. People go, well, that's 5 million people, blah, blah, blah. If they're vetted, we aborted all our kids. If there are some people out there that see the Hispanics being turned into racists as well and being tribal and being manipulated by the left and brainwashed, that's a big problem for America. But Hispanics in general are good, hardworking Christian family people. And if Trump can embrace and judo the globalist and make a reasonable thing to bring in people that aren't criminals, it's a replacement population. The black population's going down. The white population's going down. The third, fourth generation Hispanics are going down. Every industrialized group goes down. Japan's going down. Italy's having 1.2 kids. There aren't going to be Japanese and Italians in a couple hundred years. So the issue is Trump really has a pragmatic plan, like he would say in those 2-hour-long speeches. The media took it out of context, like they always do, and he said, all Mexicans are racist. The media probably clipped that out and said I said it. Didn't say that. And it's the deception, and then they use that back against him going, oh, my gosh, he is going to have blanket amnesty. No, there are a good 800,000 people here that have been here, were born here, but the parents were illegals that didn't even go in to get them the citizenship, didn't even know they could, or were scared to do it, or they got here when they were 5 years old. And obviously, you can't pull those people out of the country. It's stupid anyways. And then you give the globalists the high ground, they can play the game. Instead, you go, you're a felon, you're here fake, you're a fraud, you're out of here. And you're new pouring in illegally, you're out of here. And we're going to vet who we have coming into the country. And, hey, you don't like new people coming in? There's a lot of Hispanics don't like people coming in, driving down wages. Well, you should have had kids. And same thing for white people or anybody else. All right, let's keep score here. Trump promised to pull us out of the TPP and put in place fair economic policies to counter globalism to bring our nation back. He's done that in royal flush, ace of spades, all the way. I'd give him a 100 so far, just because of the effort and what he's delivered. He has flip-flopped on troops in Afghanistan and expanded them when he said he would pull them out. He has not acted yet on exposing vaccines that he promised he would do in that Blue Ribbon Commission. He has kind of gone sideways on Julian Assange until suddenly his lawyers are arguing that Assange isn't a criminal and is good, and they've ended federal grand juries. So that's one where he's starting to go the right direction. And there's some other places where the president has not done what he said he would do. And one of the big ones, some could say, is now DACA. But that's a semantical manipulation. And this is very sophisticated what's happening. he said during the campaign, DACA in its present form just lets anybody that says they were a kid here with no proof just be here. Obama sets these immigration hearings for 2-3 years out. 90-something% of people don't show up. It's a total fraud. 17% of the people coming across, they're calling them children. Only 17% are children. These are adults. These are handicapped people. These are things that will absolutely weigh down the country. This is crazy. Remember they bought 35,000 pairs of 6X underwear? Remember that? I mean, this is insane. They're not even testing you for diseases. They're letting you come through with leprosy, cholera, drug-resistant TB. I mean, just an assault on the country. You should at least test the people if they're sick and take them to a hospital. It's like biological warfare against the country. But now you've got a judge coming out blocking the Trump administration plan to roll back DACA. So see, you've got everybody praising Trump, saying, oh, he's suddenly going to be liberal and go with the original DACA. That's how the media is spinning it. So if he doesn't, he's betrayed everybody. But it also hurts his base. This is how the psych warfare people do it. They go, we'll declare he's now caved into us so that it'll look like he's double-crossed if he doesn't. And then we'll also say to the base he's betrayed them, and that'll give us more leverage, and we'll chip away at that, pushing him more into our arms. And then we can still set him up and bring him down later once we've gotten rid of his base. That's the Machiavellian strategy. Roger Stone's coming in the next segment to give you exclusive breakdown on the post-mortem of Steve Bannon's political career and life and stuff that he told me that was spot on. I actually considered not hiring Roger Stone 8 months ago when we first hired him because he was so anti-Steve Bannon behind the scenes, not in a treacherous way, but saying, I fear he's really turned against us. He's bringing in the generals to get a 25th Amendment. Now I'm getting intel. And I was like, I don't like that, Roger. I think Stephen Bannon's great. And he said, okay, we'll be pro-Bannon. And then we got screwed over. But now he's willing to talk. So I'll see how much he'll say in the next segment. That's very important. But getting back to DACA, this is very sophisticated. He just sent back hundreds of thousands of Hondurans that were here illegally, a lot of them children. He just sent back, again, hundreds of thousands of people from Guatemala. I mean, it's everywhere. People from Mexico. And a judge is ruling, hey, you can't do that. You got to let everybody stay here. And then all Trump's doing is having bipartisan meetings saying, listen, if somebody's really been here and they're not a criminal and they've been here a long time, then it's stupid to pull them out of the economy and get rid of them. When it doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, white, or black, everybody knows 4th, 5th generation Americans statistically are very lazy and very entitled. And hardworking immigrant labor, to a great extent, one area of that is hardworking immigrant labor. There is a criminal element that's particularly criminal, though, that basically neutralizes all the good of 95%. And Trump has that pragmatic understanding that we've got to deport the criminals, deport people that are here illegally, deport people that are lying and have fake Social Security numbers or stole them, and go after the underground economy the Democrats have set up of controlling this underclass that is mainly Hispanic immigrants. Chinese women are now outpacing Mexicans as the group coming here. They're wealthy or middle class. They are getting free health care, their babies become U.S. citizens, and they're milking everything. So if you want the real group, and I'm not bashing Chinese in general, statistically very hardworking, smart people, but they are coming over here and colonizing the U.S. and going directly on welfare and keeping their money in China. So it's you can type it in. I mean, the number one group outpacing all Mexicans that are coming in is Chinese women here to have babies. They get here 2 months before they're going to have the baby on a visa that Obama would give them. They go get an apartment. They get the baby supplies. They have the baby. That baby's now an anchor. That's fraud. China would put her in a death camp for that. I'm not saying put them in a death camp, but see, don't come here and do this. This is sick. Screwing America over needs to come to an end. So Trump is there with an olive branch. He has the meeting, and then everybody gets horrified when Wolf Blitzer and all the other hosts and Jeb Bush starts praising him. And they all know they're super unpopular. They know that hurts the president. But he's making a calculation of judo to show people they're a fraud. Just like Trump said, you're going to like what I do for the real dreamers. If you're really here, if you're not a criminal, if you're contributing, you were really here when you were a kid, okay, I said that during the campaign. That's how they're spinning it, that he's a liar. Let's play a clip of Wolf Blitzer praising this. This is the presidency many thought he was capable of. Let's play Dana Bash first. Here's Dana Bash, a piranha-like deceiver, now suddenly loving the president. Here it is.
This was kind of stunning. I have not seen anything like this.
There's a lot to discuss with regard to the substance, because there are a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of real discussion in this room. But I think it definitely bears underscoring. Look, we've all covered a lot of photo ops for the sake of bringing the cameras in to send an image around the world. That's not what this was, and we are as skeptical as they come. I think that's fair to say. This really was a negotiation. We really got we were the fly on the wall in this room, listening to the way they talk. I'm really not convinced that it would have been any different had the cameras not been in there. And I've just been communicating with now 2 Republicans who were in that meeting who said that they had no idea that the cameras were going to stay in there as long as they did.
Okay, so there you go. People being brought to the table to be sold on something that's reasonable. Hey, we can't have felons and people deported 30, 40 times and rapists saying they were born here when they weren't with no proof. They're going to leave. That's what he always said. And again, people are misrepresenting. Trump continues to do 90% of what he said he'd do. Now, if he goes sideways on this, we've got a big problem. We need to keep him honest about it. But seismically, America first, cutting the taxes, cutting the regulations, turning the coal back on, cutting the corporate tax to bring the jobs back in, that has panicked the entire New World Order. They don't know what to do, and that's why they're still scrabbling to try to get rid of Trump. And he so damaged the establishment that he could never make a deal with them to leave him alone. They're going to continue to always try to remove him because of what he symbolizes, but they will try to suck him in and manipulate him with his advisors to go along with this. Let's go out to break with Wolf Blitzer. And again, this is cringeworthy, but this is part of their psyop. Here it is.
Down the road. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. We want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world. Let me go to Jim Acosta, our chief White House correspondent. Jim, you listened closely, and I got to give the president of the United States a lot of credit. He allowed the TV cameras in there for this really remarkable meeting. I've covered the White House as you and you have for many years. I don't remember when a White House has allowed TV cameras in such an unusual.
So there you go, folks. We'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live broadcasting worldwide. And we're about to go to Roger Stone with some really big exclusive news. And we don't get into infighting here, and I basically won't even engage in it privately. And Roger, with the stuff he was telling me going back, really 8 months ago is when it started, I basically told Roger I didn't want to hear about it. And even though everything Roger so far had told me over the last few years before that was so accurate, I just couldn't believe it. And Roger was very positive on air and tried to see Bannon as the, like the good guy inside the White House that was going to keep us on track. And there might even be some truth to that. But now we know about Bannon being behind the made-up mafia dossier. And I heard about that from Stone. And we now know that he's the guy that let Wolf in and that he indeed did say those things. And all these witnesses are coming forward, even though Wolf twisted other interviews he got and has been caught in a bunch of stuff. Bannon's the guy that actually did say that stuff and did bring him in. And Bannon thought he could run for president last week. His response was, maybe I'll run for president in 2020. And his response was, I'll keep running Breitbart. And people are like, no, you're gone. And as I said the day after this all happened last Thursday, I said, Steve Bannon's gone from Breitbart, or Breitbart's done. And the people have spoken. Well, indeed, that happened yesterday. But it's not about, oh, great, somebody's head just got chopped off. Let's play polo with it. It's that I am shocked by the Machiavellian garbage and his ego. And is he evil? Is his ego? What's wrong with him? We now know he was the big leaker. He brought the generals in. He was positioning this book right now for a 25th Amendment run at him. And I remember Stone telling me this 8 months ago, and I don't know how much he can tell you, or his sources obviously he can't give you. He gave me some of them. And I was like, Roger, you know, you're not usually somebody that's just mad at somebody or envious of somebody, you know, because they're a big political pundit. He goes, absolutely not. I like writing for Breitbart. You know, I really liked Steve Bannon until he got in. This is the intel we're getting, Alex, and I'm telling you, he brought in the generals thinking it'd be a coup for him and somebody like Ted Cruz down the road, who he worked for before. And I'm listening to this, and he goes, I'm telling you. And he brought up the, you know, the Chinese double agents, and that'll be key coming up, involved with Bannon, all this other stuff. And I don't know how much he can say on air, but post-mortem, we're not gossiping here. I don't ever do this. We need to really just put it all out about Bannon. That, is he an egomaniac? Did he get manipulated? Or is he really just a super bad dude? Because if so, we'll have to continue to look out for what he's going to be doing, creeping around in the dead of night, basically. So, Roger, you've done nothing but been positive about Bannon. But behind the scenes, you're never really a negative guy, but you were just continuingly to say, it's Bannon, it's Bannon. And I almost, and I'm glad we hired you 8 months ago, and I'm glad you're our correspondent, but, you know, I almost, you know, didn't hire you because I just thought it's crazy to say Bannon is this double agent, but now you've been proven correct. I mean, how did you know this?
Well, Alex, so many things that didn't make sense in the beginning of the Trump administration now suddenly make perfect sense. The fact that Steve Bannon never helped any other true Trump supporter get into the senior White House staff. The fact that virtually every candidate Bannon promoted for a cabinet job, globalist Rex Tillerson, for example, the candidate of Condoleezza Rice, not a Trump supporter. So while giving lip service to the Trump movement, Bannon helped formulate an administration that was completely staffed by never Trumpers. It didn't make sense then. It does make sense now. It was Steve Bannon who was the original patron for General John Kelly, getting him first to Homeland Security, then helping him get into the White House Chief of Staff's job. Bannon and I met, I guess, a little over a month ago in New York for several meetings. We extended, as you know, an invitation to appear here on InfoWars, which he declined. I thought that was really strange. He was out of public office. It was an opportunity to speak to millions of freedom-oriented Trumpers around the globe, yet he passed on the opportunity.
But we're not mad at him about that. Let's go back to you saying it makes no sense. He's in there. He's doing nothing. We're being told by other sources he's helping bring them all in. He says he's for the agenda, but he's the one sabotaging it. He shows everybody the big board. And then going back about 8 months ago, as you were saying this, going back, you know, to, I guess, about February of last year, but about 8 months ago, you started saying no. I'm telling you, he's building up a 25th Amendment with these generals, and then later you predicted they would throw him overboard, that he was a useful idiot. I mean, you literally called it. So how did you call it? I mean, tell folks what you told me behind the scenes.
Well, he told me a little over 2 months ago that Trump would be gone by July, that he was pessimistic that the president could survive. Little did I understand at that time, it was because of what he himself was orchestrating. And Alex, there's no question whatsoever that he saw himself as the president's successor. And now you have an entire new and disturbing line of inquiry. Remember that Steve Bannon was a member of the National Security Council until he was kicked off the council in August. During that period, he learned about Miles Kwok. Miles Kwok is a Chinese national living illegally in the United States that the Chinese government is seeking to extradite. Steve Bannon knew firsthand that the Chinese president had asked President Trump directly on 2 occasions, once at Mar-a-Lago, once at the G12 conference, about the extradition of the criminal Kwok, who was accused in China of executing multi-million-dollar cyber crimes, essentially stealing. What does Bannon do? He leaves in August, and by October, he has a financial deal with Kwok to finance Breitbart as the Mercers, who I do think are patriots, appear to be ready to throw in.
So let's be clear.
towel.
He's calling Trump a traitor, at the same time talking to a snake reporter that he brought into the hen house, and at the same time using national security intel to then go basically get money off of somebody so that he could be the person's political protector. By every stretch of the imagination, by every historical yardstick, this sounds like treason to me.
Well, and I'm told the FBI is all over this like a cheap suit. I mean, the question is, when did Bannon begin taking money from Kwok? How much did he take? I give Matt Drudge credit for the one who put together the pieces of this particularly nefarious scheme. But Bannon was clearly Kwok's protector during the time he was on the National Security Council.
But let's give credit as well. I first learned about Kwok from you, and I kept saying, why are you harping on Kwok? You said because it's the key to Bannon. You were the first to say that. Can you tell us the extra intel you had?
Yes, it's absolutely clear. Kwok is a double agent. I believe that he was working for the Chinese, spying on America. I believe that he then flipped and went to work for Pompeo and the boys in Langley. But quite clearly, Steve Bannon became his protector in return, I believe, at least allegedly, for funding for Breitbart. There you see it. So this entire thread is now coming together, and there he is. The man on the right is in the country illegally, fighting extradition, and more importantly, Alex, he's a fly in the ointment in terms of getting the Chinese assistance on North Korea.
We'll be back and talk about this. This is incredible. It's clear Bannon is incredibly delusional. And then again, last night in that particular program, we played the clip from where I had said last week that either Bannon goes or Breitbart is going to be in deep trouble, which is a great organization, does a lot of great work. It's not about a pissing contest. It's not about enjoying going after Bannon. It's about being betrayed and then doing the post-mortem on that to find out exactly what is going on and what happened. That said, getting back into Kwok that you've been on for, gosh, 8 months, first person I heard talking about it, Bannon, espionage investigations, you couldn't get into it then. What can you tell us now about this mysterious tycoon and about your statement that sources tell you, and you're one of the most connected people I know, talking to reporters, mainstream, alternative, foreign, you name it, every day, every hour, every few minutes, on the report that you're getting that Bannon is under investigation by the FBI, and what are they investigating?
Well, it now appears, just to recap, that Steve Bannon, as a member of the National Security Council until last August, learned that Kwok was the subject of a tug of war between our government and the Chinese government, that the Chinese president asked President Trump directly for the extradition of Miles Kwok, and that the president has guaranteed that extradition. And this was most definitely one of the talking points in the president's efforts to get the assistance of the Chinese in terms of tamping down the North Korean nuclear threat. We now know that Bannon reached out to and engendered a relationship with Kwok after leaving, or perhaps contiguous with being on the NSC. And lo and behold, when the Mercer family, patriotic family out of Long Island, pulled the rug out from Breitbart's financially, well, Bannon announced that his new financier was none other than the Chinese national and fugitive criminal, Miles Kwok. This, to me, looks like self-dealing. It appears to be corrupt. It may, in fact, be treasonous if these facts are as represented. But, Alex, I go back to my meeting with Bannon several months ago, and his absolute certainty that Trump would be removed in a 25th Amendment play, and his long-sighted plan to get rid of Jared, get rid of Ivanka, with whom he is obsessed, and lay the groundwork for his own presidential candidacy. At one time, an operative who worked for Steve approached me and asked me what I thought of a Steve Bannon, Laura Ingraham ticket. I love Laura Ingraham. No one is more loyal to the president than she is. I can't see her joining such a ticket, but I now see the game plan. Take Trump down, blame Mike Pence and the deep state, step into his role. It is a duplicitous, incredible plan that involved the takedown of Donald Trump.
And hey, that's how a lot of folks become successful. They just take over when Breitbart mysteriously dies, and then if the president can be destroyed or removed, suddenly you step into all of that. I mean, wow. And then meanwhile, he's so self-centered and delusional that he's got dandruff all over him. Looks like, you know, he drinks 14 bottles of scotch a week. But I mean, you got to give his behavior. I mean, post-mortem on him politically, I don't think he can come back from any of this. How did this slob think that he could game everybody? I guess he comes out of Hollywood. How did this slob, Slob Bannon, Jabba the Bannon,
Sloppy Steve.
Yeah, Sloppy Steve. I'm just giving him new accolades. How did he think he would execute this entire thing?
Well, the answer, Alex, of course, is money. He used the Mercer's money to buy himself into Trump world. Donald Trump is one of the world's foremost geniuses on using OPM, other people's money. It's one of the things that made him one of the great business successes. He's got the sizzle, you've got the cash. Let's make a lot of money together. It's worked for him his entire life, and it's made him a billionaire in his own right. So Bannon bought his way into Trump world using the Mercer's money. From day one, it's clear that he intended to push Trump aside and move to the head of the class. You're right about it being odd in the sense that Steve is a reclusive guy, rarely left his apartment in New York, by his own admission, never put on a suit, wore the same pair of shorts every single day, not exactly a hail fellow well met, no charisma, no magnetism of the Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan type. Why he ever saw himself as a candidate, it's extraordinarily hard to understand, but his Machiavellian game plan now is completely clear. It even took me a while to piece it together. When he was telling me Trump was going down in a 25th Amendment play, what he was saying was he was working with others to take Trump down in a 25th Amendment play, confident that once Vice President Mike Pence became president, with Donald Trump's blood on his knife, he, Steve Bannon, could emerge as the rightful heir to Trumpism, the rightful heir to American
nationalism. And then right as Bannon was about to be removed, he then, through Breitbart, put out, we're going to support Pence now, again, using that weapon in a Machiavellian way to attack Pence again with his ongoing strategy to make Breitbart the only good guy in the world. I mean, wow, that is sick. But if you look at all the evidence, that's what happened. Is there any way someone else was playing him and he was just the front schlub and he's just an innocent, dandruff-colored, red-eyed goblin?
No, I think that we have nailed this down. Look, what other explanation could there be for the fact that he never helped anyone else who was savvy about Trump? He never helped anyone who was a true early Trump supporter get into the White House staff. I can't tell you how many dozens of people he promised to help, that he pledged to help, but never lifted a finger.
And here's the last piece. Here's the last piece. He brings in the deep staters, still fails, but here's the key to all of it. He said we're going after every Republican, even those that have good records. Only Ted Cruz will be left alone. Everyone must give us campaign money and support us or we'll come after you. Totally positioning themselves. And we know he first worked for Ted Cruz, put out the mafia dossier that was fake. So I think that's the other play, is those two together. I see Count Dracula, Ted Cruz at the center of this.
Entirely possible, Alex. Look, Ted Cruz is a Bush family retainer. He got a secret $1 million loan from Goldman Sachs, which he did not report on his campaign finance reports as required by law. His wife is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. He's a confection. He's a fraud. We call him Fat Dracula. And my guess is that he was Bannon's backup candidate. If the voters didn't buy Steve in a Trump takedown, maybe they'd buy Ted Cruz. Well, that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, how delusional is it with a guy that has the charisma of a dead rat with giant pinwheel red eyes and literally dandruff falling all over him? He's really dandruff Steve. Flaky skin, you know, eczema Steve, sorry, or whatever it is. Unbathed Steve, filthy Steve. Now Benedict Bannon. But, I mean, I'm not just insulting him. It's who he is. If the shoe fits, I just don't get how he thought he would execute this. It is crazy.
Well, but it is hubris. Look, when you go from laying on your couch in Manhattan in your stuffy apartment to a palatial office at the White House, you can understand how he would begin to have delusions of grandeur. Trump does make it look effortless. He's like Ronald Reagan in that sense. He is a guy who glides through life from success to success because he has sound judgment and strong character. And Bannon may have thought perhaps he could supplant the president. This entire Machiavellian scheme has just come crashing down. If you go to Barnes & Noble, by the way, you'll notice that there are 3 different vanity biographies on Steve Bannon. He's on the cover of Newsweek this week, talking about his future plans. You can see the orchestration.
And we now know how he was the leaker. Do 5 more minutes with me because I want to get back to this. So you can confirm from your sources the FBI is investigating Bannon.
My sources tell me they're now looking into his relationship with Miles Kwok.
All right. I want to do 5 more minutes with you before our next guest comes on because I want to get into DACA and how you really read what the president's doing. I go back to what he said the media ignored. He said, no, we're going to fix it. But the old DACA is not fair. But, yeah, we'll do something for people that can really prove they've been here and aren't criminals. We'll be back the second hour, Infowars.com. Please spread that link. President Trump has slammed sneaky Feinstein for possibly illegal testimony release. Yeah, all their criminal leaking. Comey's in trouble. Mueller's in trouble. The wheels have come off. We'll ask Roger Stone about that in a moment because this just broke from the great people at Breitbart and Drudge and Breitbart that helped, you know, launch the whole thing, and now back in the hands of good people, hopefully. Fusion GPS admits they used John McCain to pass anti-Trump dossier to Obama-era intel agencies. So we're going to get Roger's take on that in a moment. But Roger, finishing up, DACA. I'm going to wait to see what the president does. It's good to have people in at a table. It's good to say, I don't hate immigrants. If you've been here, you know, since you were a kid, you can show it. We're going to vet you. You can be a citizen. But if you've been deported 20 times, 30 times, some 40 times, and, you know, you're a 40-something-year-old criminal, you're gone. And if you try to come here illegally, you're gone now. But I mean, he's making a deal, and he's cut back the illegal immigration 70%. Ann Coulter and others are running around like chickens with their heads cut off to be holier than thou. If I see Trump flip-flopping like Afghanistan and stuff, I'll talk about it. But I haven't seen this yet. I see him actually trying to not let them paint him as a Nazi and keep the promises he said during the campaign.
Alex, I couldn't agree more. You know, my phone was ringing off the hook last night from troubled Trumpers, and I say, look, don't rush to judgment. Let's see what happens. Right now, we're in negotiation. The president's saying a lot of things, but watch what they do, not what they say. I'm willing to give the president the benefit of the doubt. He's a sympathetic individual. He has empathy for people who are brought here not by their own volition, who would like the promise of America, who came here as children, who aren't criminals, who have jobs or are going to school, who are, you know, productive members of society. So don't rush to judgment. Let the president work a deal. We need border security. We need that wall. There's going to be some horse trading here, but I put my faith in Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Let's not put the cart ahead of the horse.
He's not a dictator. You know, a bunch of conservatives said he's screwing us just to get headlines and get clicks. We can do that all day. We don't do it. We have integrity. Well, he's screwing us on taxes. It's a screw. He's not going to do it. And then he did it. I can't believe how much he actually got of what we wanted because he's not a dictator.
No, look, I only wish that the president got the kind of loyalty from Steve Bannon that he's gotten from you, Alex, or Paul Manafort, who Bannon savagely attacked yesterday, but who has, despite his massive legal problems of being, you know, targeted.
SWAT team raids, millions in legal bills. He's been
has remained completely loyal to the president. Think about it. They say Manafort, all your problems can go away. All you've got to do is lie, roll on Donald Trump, say, yes, I was trafficking with the Russians and Trump knew everything. It would be a lie. And he refuses. He remains steadfastly loyal to the president.
And by the way, you talk to him almost every day. You've been business partners for decades, one of the most successful firms in D.C. We're going to break here in about a minute, and I'll let you go. But how is he holding up? Because the man has done absolutely nothing but be a patriot for Western civilization.
Well, I can tell you this. He's 100% behind the president. He's outraged by this attack on him by Steve Bannon. He's an Italian-American. They can threaten him with everything they want. He's not going to bear false witness against Donald Trump. He would go to prison first, but at the same time, he's confident that these charges against him are bogus, that they're trumped up. He's brought a sweeping lawsuit against Mueller that he's very confident about, so he remains upbeat and positive. He's in a fight for his life, but he will never abandon the president of the United States.
I mean, I know a lot of what you talk to him about you can't talk about because there's lawyers and stuff, but how's his spirits?
Well, considering that he is under house arrest, he essentially can't leave his apartment in Alexandria, Virginia. They refuse to let him travel. No travel for Christmas, inability to see much of his family. He's holding up amazingly well. And Alex, he's a big fan of InfoWars. He follows exactly what we do here every day.
Well, we're a fan of what you're doing, and you were so on target on Kwok and Bannon. I apologize, Roger, because you were right behind the scenes, and you wanted to go after Bannon, and I said, let's not do it, and I feel guilty. But thank you for being right. You're amazing. Thank you, Roger. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live in the second hour, broadcasting worldwide on this Wednesday, already the 10th day of January, 2018. Dr. Mark Faber is an amazing individual, a lot of great economic predictions and laurels under his belt. He's Mark Faber, editor and publisher of the Gloom, Boom, and Doom Report. That's gloomboomdoom.com, and I'm not going to go over all of his long bio or books or reports. I want to get right into what's happening in the global economy. We were trying to get him on for weeks on other big issues and on this recovery, and the Democrats trying to sabotage it, and the EU and migration. But now you've got China is reportedly thinking of halting U.S. Treasury purchases. That's worrying markets right now. The markets are down some, but still well above 25,000 on the Dow Jones. So what does he make of all of this? What is his overall breakdown on Trump lowering our taxes to what the Chinese communists have, and now they're going to lower to zero as companies become state-run? Just amazing things. So I could ask a lot of questions, but I want him to cover the waterfront from the Gloom, Boom, Doom report. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
Well, my pleasure, Alex.
What should we tackle first? So much is going on.
Yes, yes. Well, we can talk about the global economy, which is kind of strengthening somewhat. But as you know, a lot of this strength is due to government deficits and to money printing. In other words, the expansion of balance sheets of central banks and, of course, of credit growth, which is very strong. So it's kind of a mixed recovery. It's been very good for assets. Asset prices since 2009 have not only recovered, but they've gone and made new highs. Bonds, stocks, dollar was strong until a year ago. Commodities have also done quite well over the last 12 months. So real estate has equally gone up around the world. We had really an exceptional kind of a asset recovery, asset bubble, I would say. And that has led to stronger economic growth that looks reasonably good on the surface. But if you dig deeper, it's, of course, unstable economic growth.
And that's exactly where I was going next. Can this Trump populist nationalist rally that's spreading across the world, can it pull the world markets up into a true global recovery, or is it like a sugar high? And a sugar high that I want, because at least it's a bubble keeping us from a total collapse or depression, that might actually create some new industry and jobs in the United States. And the U.S. is kind of one of the better houses in a bad neighborhood. And we're entering into a trade war. It looks like an economic war with the communist Chinese. I mean, if you looked at where we were going, it was bad. And so, yes, it's another bubble we're riding with Trump. But isn't that all we've got as bubbles? I mean, is that what you're getting at?
Yes, I think we've got a lot of bubbles. And I need to correct you. I don't think that you can call the Chinese communists any longer. It's a one-party system, the Communist Party. But it's anything but communist. It's ultra-capitalistic, with lots of very wealthy people having been created both through state subsidies and privileges, but as well as through private initiative. So, I mean, we've had in China, I'd say almost a robber baron capitalism in the last few years, and that has propelled the economy forward. We have less regulation than in the US. We have less socialism than in Europe. And that has been very favorable for the economy.
Well, I totally agree with you that China is an authoritarian one-party kleptocracy where the upper party members and members of the Politburo and Central Committee are billionaires, and then they are killing Buddhists and Christians for practicing their religion secretly. It's a ultra-corrupt, evil elite, hardworking, good people under them. It's a true travesty, and I never see our media even criticizing communist China anymore. Do you agree with a lot of economists that China is in a much more precarious position than even we are with their state-run system trying to prop up 10% growth rates, that our bubble is underpinned with some problems, but that their bubble is even much more dangerous?
Well, I think we had huge credit growth in China. In fact, according to the Bank of International Settlement, no country ever had the kind of credit growth China had over the last 5 to 8 years in terms of percentage increase. However, and I need to point this out, whereas in the Western world, credit growth flows into transfer payments. In other words, it goes into people's pockets from one pocket into the other. In China, a lot of infrastructure has been built with this credit growth. And this infrastructure benefits actually economic growth in the long run. So if you look at, say, the infrastructure in China, in Shanghai, Beijing, and so forth, and other cities, and you compare it to the infrastructure in the US, with few exceptions, the US has actually very poor infrastructure.
Yes, it's rotting. And you see that, you see the globalists moving from the U.S. to China, building them up, saying they're the future. And then Trump, it looks like, is trying to imitate China, but not with authoritarianism, just letting us have jobs, trying to build up infrastructure. And I've seen Lloyd Blankfein making fun of him in tweets, saying China's better, you'll never stop us. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of, I guess you could say, China files in the global elite, and they're betting on China, and that's one reason they hate Trump so much, is he's trying to bet on America.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't write off America, but we have to see very clearly. Say, in 1750, in other words, approximately 250 years ago, China and India accounted for approximately 60% of the global economy. And then came the Industrial Revolution in Europe, and the huge progress we have achieved through inventions and innovations, and the application of these innovations to industry and commerce in Europe and in the US. And as a result of that, the percentage of India and China of the global economy declined to less than 5% in the 1950s, partly also due to failed political decisions, partly communism in China and in India.
And then the West gave them the Promethean, and then the West gave them the Promethean fire of the Renaissance, and now we're being double-crossed.
Yes. And now, what has happened in the last, say, 20, 30 years is that the Western countries experience a relative decline. And there's nothing you can do against this relative decline. You can try to age well. I'm in a relative decline. I'm not as strong as I was when I was 20 years old. And I can't do sports as well as when I was 25 years old. So I'm in a relative decline. But I can try to age well as well as you. So we have to try to do that. And as Western societies, in my opinion, we have actually accelerated our decline with failed policies by essentially socialist-minded.
Well, let's talk about
government.
that. And the socialists say they want to kill the West. It is a self-loathing. It is the culture. And it will destroy the prosperity of the very SJWs calling for its collapse. Dr. Mark Faber, the editor and publisher of the Gloom, Boom, Doom Report, with us with one more segment of where this collapse is going. And then we'll be in the hands of murderous one-party system. Alex Jones here, back live. The Daily Mail, one of the most popular newspapers in the UK, has a lot of hard-hitting news. They also have like a swimsuit section of, you know, girls in bikinis or whatever. I like it. It's one of my favorite online papers. They've been banned on Virgin Atlantic train stations and trains because the head of it says that it's xenophobic to even cover immigration issues. Well, Mark Faber, who's been on every TV show out there, you know, is a top expert, editor, and publisher of the Gloom, Boom, Doom Report, he got called racist and evil for even talking about the demographics and the Islamicists being brought into Europe and how the West is committing suicide. But then Peter Sutherland, that engineered all this, who just died, by the way, yesterday, the head of the EU program and the founder of the modern EU, he headed up the migration operation now, and he said we're going to get rid of Western civilization. So there's a vitriol against it when the technology and the system of it will work in other cultures. And if everybody just wants to die and not have kids, then let people come into the, you know, high-tech, you know, space-based system, and then humanity can just move forward. Because we've certainly seen the West before it really was modern, you know, living in squalor as well. But there is a war against it by authoritarians who want to break away civilization and don't want the general public to have access to free market and success. And that's the technocracy Google talks about, and that's why they hate Mark Faber. So super respected, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, everything you can imagine, suddenly persona non grata because he dares talk about the reality of it's not just the death of the West, as you said, it's the accelerated death. Why are Western elites fetishizing Dr. Faber, the death of the West?
Well, I also wonder why. But we have to see one thing very clearly. Say, if you look at the last 20, 30 years, wealthy people, in other words, the asset holders, have become immensely rich as a result of money printing and credit growth. And the average household, the typical household in the US, the typical household in Western countries in Europe has had essentially a declining standard of living. I would actually say that most boomers, the people like myself, born just after the war, their children will die poorer than we will die, and they will earn less money. And this is statistically proven that in real terms, inflation adjusted, they earn less. Most young people cannot afford to buy a house, cannot afford to buy an apartment, unless they have parents who will buy it for them. But otherwise, on their own, they can't do that.
And as you've said, is this not social engineering where they have set it up, Russia's trying to change this, to not have families? They've engineered it to not just deindustrialize, but depopulate the West. And then once you've depopulated it, then you've got third world. That is not a good prognosis. So why has everything been set up to have crony capitalism, to transfer wealth to the Jeff Bezoses of the world while he runs around on his anti-family jihad?
Yes, well, there are many explanations for that. But I'd say our entitlement society and the socialist thought that everybody should be precisely equal when in fact some people are born a little bit more intelligent, and some people are born with some more money than others. I mean, it's maybe sad to say so, but we're just not all exactly equal. Some people can go to Harvard, and most people cannot. And so we have in the Western world this tendency to move and equalize everything. That I will never understand, that we have fought against communism and socialism for years, for maybe the last 100 years, and now we introduce it to the back, through the back door.
Well, that's right.
And I think this is a huge failure of democracy, and I'm not sure that democracy will survive in the long run. This democracy is an experiment. For the last 5,000 years of history, we had essentially all kinds of systems, but for the last 200 years, we have had this movement towards democracy, and it's only just recent that everybody can vote. This is not...
And now they're using democracy to vote out democracy with new permanent elite classes based on their race or what color they are, attempting to replace something that they see they're threatened by, but really it's the system that brought them in.
Yes, precisely. It's like in Animal Farm, where some pigs are more equal than others. Some animals are more equal than others. And for me, it's very difficult to understand this frame of mind that we just actually accelerate our relative decline, which would happen anyway. So we had different civilizations. We had the Persian civilization, we had the Egyptian civilization, we had the Greeks, the Romans, we had the Spanish Empire, the British Empire, we had the supremacy of America.
But none of those committed suicide consciously. We have an elite committing suicide because they know what they're doing. As you said, they take the pie and they take 30% of the money and they collectivize it to domesticate the mass of the people. Then less than 1% transfers through crony capitalism most of the wealth up here, and they're in control. But these people are destroying the engine of their own success, even though it's been transferred to the breakaway civilization, which is waging war against the nouveau riche and the very engines of wealth, pulling up the ladder of success to create a permanent elite class and a giant underclass. This is the conscious movement of civilization into neo-feudalism. Is it not, Dr. Faber?
Yes, that's a good expression, neo-feudalism. That I'd say. Actually, it's a very bad feudalism, because most of the feudals, they had actually some education, whereas today's elite frequently has no education whatsoever.
How long do you think, I mean, what do you think of Trump, just in closing? I mean, do you think he's a good guy? Do you think he's doing it? I mean, what advice would you give him?
Well, as you know, it's a very difficult thing to clean the swamp of Washington, because there's so many parties and there's so many organizations. Just to get the documentation that you need from the FBI or CIA, they resist actually telling you what they have been doing. And so, yes, he's doing a great job relative to what he can do. You understand, in China, Xi Jinping has the power. He can say, I'm going to do this, and that will be done. Nothing else. Trump and any Western leader doesn't have that power. There are people behind the scene that pull the strings and so forth. And so he's much more constrained than, say, a Chinese leader or, let's say, Vladimir Putin.
You're absolutely right. And then there's so much treachery because we've been so wealthy and so spoiled. There's all these spoiled brats that won't get behind something good, because we're not a dictatorship, but get behind it to make it happen for everybody. No, they all want to say they're better, and just run around and engage in fratricide. Dr. Mark Faber, very impressive historical information and market info. Thank you so much for joining us again. Gloomboomdoom.com. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Newswars.com. Stay with us. I'm going to open the phones up to get your quick pop-in take on DACA, is Trump betraying us? I don't think we've seen any evidence of that yet. The media is just acting like he's done it. A lot of conservative groups are playing along with it to get clicks. But I'll get your take on it. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about China reportedly thinking of halting U.S. Treasury purchases? Well, good. We shouldn't be based in fiat garbage. We shouldn't have you with unfair trade deals to get all our money and then buy our country up with it. That's just some of the news and information that's breaking. Wolf again admits that he didn't interview any White House cabinet officials. It had been denied previously by John McCain that he had passed on the anti-Trump dossier. Now it's confirmed. They're now admitting it. They're just a pack of liars. It really is incredible. I want to get your take on this and so much more. Also, we've seen record earthquakes the last year and a half, volcanoes reawakening, exploding, erupting all over the world. They say the pole is moving, they completely shift. Oh, I totally forgot, too. Giant explosion over Russia that shook the ground and was a huge white-orange fireball, nothing like anyone's ever seen in modern times, though there are all sorts of weird sky events going on. So who knows? There is just so much craziness. I have not been plugging, really, the last 2 days, any products here on air because I've just been so focused on news. But it is your purchase of the products that makes the broadcast possible. And if you need water filtration, which everybody needs, you need high-quality supplements, you need all sorts of really good things for you and your family, books, videos, hundreds of different Patriot apparel to meet like-minded people and help spread the word. It's all at InfoWarsStore.com, and you're the reason. I mean, it's not just a platitude. It's totally true. You are the reason, period, that InfoWars is here and that we can have this great crew and have these broadcasts and change the world and break so many times news, years, months, days, weeks, you name it, before anyone else does. Our latest product, by the way, that I've got the literature here on somewhere, is Immunowall. It's very, very affordable. At $29.95, it's 25% off out of the gates. And we set out with beta-glucans, olive leaf, and a bunch of other key compounds that are absolutely documented. We can even make claims about what this does to bolster your immune system and make you healthier, especially if you're going to be traveling or you're under stress or it's in the winter months. This is something everybody should be taking. Wellmune is patented and documented in all the hundreds of studies. And then you got the ancient stuff there as well. The organic olive leaf extract is what the Roman soldiers would take whenever they started getting sick, just chock full of all those key enzymes and vitamin C and so much more. Then it's got all the concentrated, highest quality organic types of mushrooms that are documented for your body, and then concentrated citrus peel, orange peel, lemon peel, organic orange peel. It's all there, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not going to sit here and hype this product up. We have now over 70 products, and they're all excellent. And they're all game changers. You need to really go read the third-party reviews from Power Reviews and others that we have linked. Our average review on InfoWarsStore.com, there's more than 40,000 reviews now, is 94%. They even had media investigations with BuzzFeed and people calling them going, we want to see it, it must be fake. They're like, no, it's really real. So they've had campaigns that people go on there and try to vote stuff down. I mean, they are just so angry where they test our stuff and test it in California labs that has stuff 90% higher, or no, it's 9 times higher than EU that has the next highest standards. I mean, basically, there's more lead in the air than in California than you can, quote, put in a supplement or any other product, unless you call it a food product. And that's why, what is it, 60-something of our products are all California standard. But if you've got something that's got, I don't know, 10, 15 ingredients in it, and it's also a large serving like Caveman. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, any can of chicken noodle soup has probably 5 times the lead California says is allowed. The lawyers wrote it like that to make it impossible. It's a total joke. So that's just an example of all the scams, all the things, all the bamboozling, all the garbage that's been engaged in with them trying to sabotage us in the news, trying to say we have terrible products. It's just insane. And then we test and test and test more than anybody we know of because we know we're under a microscope, ladies and gentlemen. So whether it's the sleep aid knockout you need, which is amazing, I said, you know, melatonin's on average $19, $19.95 a bottle. And a lot of it's not even organic type. And I said, I talked to the big, organic producer companies that we have make it. And I said, how much money is really in that? And they said on average about maybe $1 of melatonin, and then the container costs 50 cents or so, or less. And I said, so I can put the same amount of melatonin in, just making a bigger capsule, and it's powdered, so you actually absorb it, and then add L-tryptophan, valerian root, lemon balm, chamomile, and several other things. And I checked with scientists. None of them interact badly. They're all from nature. They're all healthy. They all have good, good clean records. And then you get a sleep, unlike other systems. I mean, Randall Wilhite, his name is on the Texas Family Code, the last 4 or 5 issues. I mean, he writes the Texas Law of the Family Code. He's one of the top family law lawyers in the country. Used to be Racehorse Haynes' aide de camp before he left criminal law, went into family law. But the point is, he's a smart guy. Doesn't smoke marijuana, doesn't drink anything. And real clean-cut guy, UT professor. They wanted to be the dean of the UT Law School, but he didn't do it. The point is, he's a prestigious guy. And Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, German-American guy. But genuinely like Ward Cleaver. And he was on like 3 or 4 drugs and sleep studies and UT, brain studies because he couldn't sleep after years of going overnight and not sleeping. His brain rewired himself. And these drugs he was taking, he couldn't even get sleep. It was ruining his life. I hadn't seen him in 4 or 5 months because he'd been here at the office, and I gave him a whole box of stuff, and I'm going to quit plugging here and get back to news. But I haven't been plugging in days, so might as well plug. But these are the true stories. And he goes, man, I got to really thank you. I am sleeping 8 hours through the night. I only have to take 1 knockout. I've gone and showed, UT Science this and everything else. This is insane. Wow, it's incredible. I'd taken melatonin stuff by itself and it didn't help. Wow, this is incredible. And I said, yeah, I don't know. I just had the idea to mix everything known, scientifically and in the wives' tales together to make you sleep. And, it's powerful. Some people have to take 2 of them. Some people take 1 of them. If I had a bunch of caffeine and been up late, I'll take 1. And you just have better sleep, period, when you take it. And, it's got, what, like $6, $7 of product in it? And then we sell it for $19.95. And it's 100 and something markup. But why would anyone buy melatonin when this has got 8 other ingredients in it? And they're inexpensive, high-quality ingredients. And it's amazing. So there's Knockout. We got to sell a lot of it at $14.95. Regular price is, $29.95, usually $19.95. It's $14.95 right now. It's 50% off. And I just want you to experience, it helps fund the InfoWar, helps support free speech. But then you get a product like this that, by the way, Randy says he wants to come in and do a testimonial about it. Because I said, yeah, you look like 10 years younger. He said, oh, yeah, it's just I'm off all the sleep drugs. He says, this is totally freed me. He goes, do you know what it is in there? And I said, it's the synergy of it, of the chamomile, the lemon balm, the L-tryptophan, the valerian root, the melatonin, and several other ingredients, all just moderate dose. They're all the recommended dose, and they just fuse together. And whatever they do chemically in the brain that Mother Nature, God gave us from Mother Nature, is incredible. So that's available, InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. But thank you for committing to get the great products, the books, the films, the T-shirts, you name it, because it takes selling a lot of stuff to be able to fund this. We're not like raiding countries like George Soros and stealing billions and then, funding race war. It's just selling T-shirts, selling books, selling films, and, just hustling to be able to get high-quality products out so you have a great response and reorder. It's called Reap What You Sow. Remember, it's pretty much illegal in Sweden and Germany and other areas if an Islamist rapes and kills a woman or stabs a lady jogging with her dog. It's a daily occurrence. To even report that it was a Muslim, there's a new story up on Infowars.com. Germany won't deport convicted jihadists because it's against his human rights. Yeah, they're even starting to say they're allowed to rape people because it's cultural. I saw a story out of Big Brother reality TV show that I didn't cover last night. It's up on Infowars.com. Sure, it's here in the stack, but I missed it. where a transgendered woman, and Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, if you say that a woman that says she's a woman that has male genitals and doesn't have ovaries, no, that's a man, that they will ban you. Facebook calls us and says, take this down and we're banning it. I mean, it's happened several times. It's crazy. We're gearing up a lawsuit because of it, and they've been put on notice. And you see the lawsuits against Google that my name's in and everything. I've been told I don't even need to be a party to all these things. They're just going to sue and put me in there. But singer rejects kiss from transgender, gets labeled transphobe. So it's basically rape on these social engineering shows. They wanted Paul Watson to go on there, and I said, do not do it and lower yourself to that. And I mean, I said, do it if you want. You can still work here, but I think you're crazy. He said, no, I agree. But they wanted him on this season, by the way. We got to get Watson on about that. I forgot. It's the #1 show in England for like, what, a decade running. In the UK, something like 20 million people watch it each week. And they have everybody in there, and social pressure, guys to have sex with guys, and then, you know, women. And then you're not cool if you don't. They literally bully him to kiss and then I guess have sexual relations, they're all under the covers, with another guy that's got long hair and is an unattractive guy. But remember, Google executives say in the lawsuit that I'm in, that broke big national news yesterday or 2 days ago, it broke just 2 nights ago, it was about a day and a half ago, that the executives walk in all dressed insane and go, I am a golden dragonette. And I'm a beautiful, ornate building. Everyone agree. And then these big circular amphitheaters, they go, you are Golden Dragon. This is in the lawsuit, and they have the files and the documents. You are Golden Dragon, Dragonette. You are ornate, beautiful building. And they go, and then jump around. Again, you cannot make this up. You go, well, this is just total mental illness. No, it's from the Tavistock Institute. They used our openness and our diversity against us to say, oh, use the word gay or you hate homosexuals. And then it sounds reasonable. And then 40 years later, don't use the word mother and father. Someone might not have a mother and father, and that helps them. I mean, this is in the lawsuit. Tucker Carlson reported on it too. A yellow-scaled wingless dragonkin. Is it dragonkin a female dragon or a baby dragon? At an expansive, ornate building. And it's literally, I'm a dog, I'm a cat. I fetish that I'm a 4-year-old girl, and it's an obese 400-pound man. And then other men go, I like to have sex with kids. And then they come, and then I mean, this is on television. And it's a big fat guy dressed up like a little girl going, I like men, I like it, I can have sex with men if I want. They're all just throwing it in your face as a big sick joke and then beating you over the head with the media, saying, you're hateful if you don't let us teach your 3-year-olds about this. Jocelyn Elders, reach down, touch their genitals, rub them, help them. Want to play the clip? Remember that? The Surgeon General. We shouldn't be shy about it. Reach down, grab them, and help them. I'll play that next hour. Let's dig out a couple of times and her defending it. The right wing got pretty upset about me talking about something very normal like masturbation, but it's not you, the government, coming in and reaching down. That's called pedophilia. Yeah, there's Newsweek. Remember the time Bill Clinton fired his Surgeon General for encouraging masturbation? And Newsweek's like, see, it's totally normal now. In Sweden, they reach down to little girls. The government comes in and they touch them. Oh, yeah. Bill Clinton likes me, by the way, when he's not on Jerry Epstein's plane. That's how she talks. But white people don't know what it's like to be poor. That's the issue we're told about. What a creepy freakazoid. But again, it's all a scientific plan. And now it's, I'm a golden dragonette. And I identify as a 6-year-old girl, and I want to date your son who's 6. Well, no, you can't. That's pedophilia. Shut up. I'm calling the police. You're going to kiss me and have sex with me on TV, or you're a transphobe. Well, you're a woman if you say so. He goes, you're a woman. I'm under your control. I will say you're a woman, but I'm not going to be with you. Well, the next level is on television. You've got to let them have sex with you. You basically have to get raped. Singer rejects kiss from transgender, gets labeled transphobe. And hated across the media, all beating you over the head. Tavistock Institute. Continuing. You know, we talk about how Gallup and how all the rest of them sampled between 9 and 15 to 16. During the election, they went crazy, 20 points on average. CNN would have 30, 40, 50, no, it was 46 points was the highest ever, where they oversampled 46% more Democrats than Republican callers in their call. Like, oh, are you a Democrat? Oh, you're a Republican. People call on the CNN line. They participate in the fake poll, and they have Hillary at, 69%. Just like the New York Times said, 98%, 97%, she's unstoppable. We have a scientific algorithm. The real algorithm showed Trump was going to win. And I told you it was coming with Oprah. You could see this a mile away. Rasmussen poll shock. Oprah, 48%, Trump, 38%. Because you go read the Rasmussen poll. They're pretty nice. They only add, I haven't read the actual thing yet because I've read it hundreds of times. It's always the same. They do about 9 to 10 points more oversampling for Democrats. Can one of the crew go into that and actually read the methodology? But again, they're famous for these. It's not like I'm just here telling you this. So, Oprah versus Donald. And the winner is Oprah. I stick my tongue in Harvey Weinstein's ear, Winfrey. Oprah, I've got $3 billion and a chip on my shoulder, and I'm part of the most elite eugenics group in the world. And I fund black depopulation. But I take myself real serious, and I bring women to Harvey Weinstein. But I'm going to lecture you how you're bad. And how all men are bad, but Hollywood's good, and have all these actors act all upset and hang on to every ridiculous word because I'm phony, and people are rejecting me. So what are we going to do? Why? Oprah really won the election. Did you know? Trump tried to steal it, but she's really the president. Yes, CNN said so. Elizabeth Warren, too. Oprah, but Oprah's home, one of her dozens, has been affected by mudslides, and she's posted a photo of her walking knee-deep in it. Here, let me just click on that. For some reason, my clicker's not working now. Maybe one of you guys can post it for me. But there you go. It's so loving. During the next break, I'll actually go into the nomenclature of that. I'll go into the methodology of it, and we'll see. But, I mean, that's how they do it. They say, oh, well, we consider that there's, 10% more Democrats in America, so we oversample for them. And then we ask, are you a Democrat? Well, why, yes. Well, do you like Trump or Oprah? Oh, I like Oprah. But you oversample. And you beat people over the head. And what's in the WikiLeaks? It's the good old John Podesta's 2 years out from the election saying, we've got to finance every major pollster, get out ahead of this, and push them to do even higher oversampling. He goes, 15 isn't enough. 15% more Democrat. Oh, but look, there it is. Oprah's home affected by California mudslides. Oh, my gosh, this is the concerted effort. Oh. She is just such an angel. And it's just she's such a survivor. She's such a good person. She cares about everybody. And this is now what's going on. Simply amazing. And notice when I talked about her being a black Nazi, which being a part of the eugenics group, I mean, that's what the Nazis were. There were plenty of black Nazis in World War II. You can actually look it up. The media thought that sounded crazy, so they ran with that. But when I got into her sticking her tongue in Weinstein and women saying that she brought women to them and basically set them up, and that, she's been involved as a child prostitute and all the rest of this stuff, and, the fact that she doesn't want her lesbianism, there's nothing wrong with her lesbianism, lady, it's fine. The point is just, let's get it out front. Let's be proud of it. And nobody wanted to touch that. See, because, oh, you don't talk about that with the grand leader. I mean, she's like the shadow president now. They're about to say, watch. She's really like America's conscience. It's the phenomenon, after Trump won, America stood up and she became the voice. She's our mommy when she's not sticking her filthy tongue in Harvey Weinstein's fetid, scaly, diseased ear. Stay with us. Yeah, if you go back to the campaign, a year and a half ago, they were saying Trump hates Hispanics. He hates Mexicans. He says they're all criminals. And we offered rewards to people on air of anybody that could find us a clip of him saying that. No, George Ramos and everybody said he said that. He would give hour-long, 2-hour speeches, and they would take it out of context. He said, if you've been deported, if you're a criminal, if you can't prove that you haven't been living here since you were a kid or that you haven't been living here a long time and have a job and a part of society or in school, we're deporting you, and we're going to stop everybody else just pouring in the way Obama is, you know, saying, again, 60-year-old men and women are children. It's like in Europe, they call these jihadis. There's like another fetish thing on Infowars.com that we cover. A German documentary on the kids channel for kids showed a teenage girl, but like 14, that dates her Arab boyfriend. And everybody looked at it and said, that guy looks like he's 25. And it turned out he was. And it's how cool it is on the kids shows. You know, get your Muslim boyfriend. And it's, you know, it's so great. And it's just, this is what the government does. They tell young girls, go get a Muslim who just came over, 80% military-age men, and even get on a plane with them. Go back to the Middle East, where in many cases, you're never seen again, sweetheart. And they always pick a sweet guy like, we're Islamicists and we're real sweet and, you know, we're real Western. And again, it's the priming the pump. They should have TV ads telling German women, especially Eastern European women, man, they are, you know, it's real poor. They want to get out. And these slick guys, baby Jules, you're so beautiful. Oh, you're going to come with me. And if they're lucky, they end up in 50-guy gangbangs shot in L.A. Okay? I mean, you want to get on a train to hell. You go and you get on an airplane with an Islamic man when you're 14, 15 years old, you're 20, whatever, you're crazy. And it's one of the most known documented things out there. And it's all about their love. It's all about priming, because the refugees aren't 15. They're military-age men, and they are literally running TV ads, UN-funded, with rock star and movie stars going, I wear the hijab in German. Oh, I love Islam. And the issue is, we can show you those ads, is that it's a German pop star who is saying, wear a hijab, do this, and it's just TV shows everywhere saying, young women, go to an anti-racism concert, these women show up, and it's mainly men, and then 50 of them line up and gang rape them. We got the videos. We don't show that. We just show the women begging and clawing. You can watch hours of them just like come up for air, like, and they're like, ah, and it's just liberal. Ah, all right, that's enough. Just get it off the screen. I can't look at it. Here it is. See, look. Me too. The hijab is beautiful. Ah, enjoy the difference. Ah, yes, enjoy. Ah. Said the spider to the fly. Yeah, don't bring people in if Europe has 1.3, 1.5 replacement rate from Asia. Don't bring them in from Latin America. Don't bring them in. Don't encourage any of the Europeans to have children. Oh, that's a bad thing, they're told. Encourage North Africa and the Middle East. Oh. And they advertise, come here, we have women. And then the imams, they have when the men are weak, the women are ours. We will go. They are strong breeding stock. We will conquer the world with them. It is the order of Allah to go to Germany and take their women. And then Erdogan came out last year and said, we will burn down every European city if you don't let us come in. And your women are ours. Yeah, just hordes of young Turks. Just, we'll kill all the Christians like we always do. And then it was like, liberal, wear the hijab, get on an airplane with him, go to Saudi Arabia, go to Libya, go to Somalia, and we're going to take you and sell you on a slave block to a sheik, and you'll never get out of the dungeon. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back live. This happened a few months ago, but we posted it because it hadn't gotten a lot of attention, or as much as it should, on Infowars.com a few days ago. And I didn't play the audio because it's kind of low, but we've edited it down to like 5 minutes. You can go watch the whole thing at privatesectorarms.com. It's also on Infowars.com. The article's originally from Louder with Crowder. A fat SJW walks into a gun store. Hilarity ensues. You know, I don't really think it's funny. I mean, this person is whacked out, man. They think an American flag's Nazi, a Gadsden flag's Nazi. They grab Bibles, start throwing them all over the place, cracking the window, throwing them on the roof. And this is a literal brainwashed victim. And this is what SJWs are like. We go out, our crew faces them, but they'll march up with guns and actually threaten us. It's illegal to walk around with guns in most areas, but you don't do it brandishing them. So they're just allowed to do whatever they want. And they're extremely dangerous because they really believe what they're being taught at college. They tell them, you're important, you're powerful because you're going to fight Nazis. They go home and play World of Warcraft and walks in and starts saying stuff about, oh, you won't sell to, you know, the K word, one of the expletives for Jews. And the left always just spews race garbage and everything. I said, the mainstream media is broke back. And the Young Turks go, that's code for gay. No, the original definition means broken, failed, dysfunctional. But you guys take every word and then say we can't use it because you're control freaks. You're threatened by words. Excuse me. A fat SJW walks into a gun store and true sadness ensues. It starts with Antifa Annie. That's her name. We think, because you're not, California, they arrest you if you even say, you know, the sex of somebody or don't say it. So we just say it. And it's not just a Stephen King book. So again, it starts with Antifa Annie mistaking a flag for a Nazi flag. It ends with Bibles being thrown on the roof. What's amazing is you got to go watch the full 10.5-minute video because he is so polite. He's so nice. He never even tries to bait her. I mean, I would have gotten mad. You're like throwing Bibles around and calling me a Nazi and spewing expletives about Jews all day. It's simply incredible. So Don Teague was born in Washington, raised in the Philippines during the Marcos dictatorship. As a missionary in the 80s and 90s, he saw an early age being a citizen was the right to bear arms was one of the greatest things about this country's freedom. He began arms dealing in 97, created the Private Sector LLC in 2014 in July, in the most left-wing area of the capital city right near Evergreen College. And he can tell us again exactly where he's located. As our name reflects, the Private Sector LLC, Private Sector Arms, for the sole purpose of facilitating the proliferation of small arms and tactics among the law-abiding. That's the opposite of the UN's deal. So we're going to talk to him right now. Again, he's in Washington State. Thank you for joining us, Don. Do you think this is funny? I'm not putting down Steven Crowder. He's a comic. I think it's very disturbing.
Yeah, hi, Alex. No, I don't think that's very funny at all. Unfortunately, it's pretty par for the course around here. A lot of people act like that. A lot of people talk like that and drop all the words that everybody seems to be buzzing about these days. But yeah, it was ridiculous. She comes in, she starts asking me right off the bat, using, you know, Nazi terms. I'm assuming that she thought I was a Nazi, and so she wanted to, well, I don't know what, trap me in my my prejudice by being like, you know, hell no, I'd never sell to those people. But yeah, I didn't even know what she was talking about at the time, but she educated me real quick.
And I'm not just saying this to be mean. These people all act like central casting from a Hollywood movie where a nut house, you know, loses power and the doors get open and 10,000 lunatics get loose. They all literally act like bridge dwellers.
Yeah, you know, like I said, we see it a lot, but not to that level. I mean, I didn't really think she would take it that far. I guess I probably gave her a little bit too much rope to hang herself with. But, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of damage other than, I think, mainly for everybody just kind of now validating that, yes, in fact, people are out there like that. They do feel that way. They are saying those things. They are coming up, getting in your face. They're trying to bait you into doing something that they can then justify whatever kind of violence they want to inflict upon you. Why she choose to do that in a gun shop, I have no idea.
And, of course, Evergreen College, what, you're by Olympia, right?
Right.
And so, if memory serves, isn't that where the white teachers were held hostage, and then they just said no whites allowed for a weekend or whatever, and then the school defended that and said all whites must leave? And then professors that said this is insane and racist, who are liberals, they were suspended, right?
Correct. Correct, they were.
So do we know if this mind control victim probably came from that college or where?
Yeah, I don't know for sure. She said something about that she was 30. We found out later that, in fact, she was probably only 22, 23 years old. She might have been going to college there, or maybe, you know, and this comes from a guy who was homeschooled most of my life. Maybe she was homeschooled, and maybe it was not done appropriately in some basement somewhere. I have no idea.
Well, exactly. There's the bad side of homeschooling with the leftists sometimes, and sometimes right-wing folks.
Right.
Expanding on that, I don't know if you ever saw the video of the, we call him Goblin Man, attacking me with hot coffee. They thought I staged that. I mean, I would walk down the streets of Seattle, and my wife and family said, look, stop going out alone. They stayed in the hotel. I was attacked every minute or so. People throwing stuff, dumping coffee, screaming at me, screaming Nazi. I mean, have you ever seen that footage?
I'm looking at it right now, and yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I don't go downtown Seattle for that very reason. No, I totally would believe that would be something that would happen. It happens downtown Olympia all the time when people are trying to make a point in front of City Hall. They do that to the police. So yeah, of course, you're very, you know, people know what you look like. You stand for all kinds of things that people don't appreciate or would like to shut you up about. So
tell us about the compendium of this, or the track. I mean, you've lived there a while. I mean, what's the track of this, you know, getting bad? I mean, and how bad do you think it's going to get? Because they seem to be radicalizing, getting more delusional, more insane, where they think the American flag is Nazi.
Right. It's just misinformation, or I guess they just say, okay, insert. If I don't know anything about it, I'm going to insert whatever I can to justify my outburst. But yeah, it is getting worse. I mean, this is the second time something like that has happened to us. The first time was literally a year and a day earlier. It was the day after Trump was elected, and we had somebody spray paint FU about 12 times in 2 different colors all over our storefront. They Gorilla Glued the doors, the locks, the hinges, both the front and the back.
That's Antifa. That's what they do.
Yeah, and this guy was dressed the same, tall, heavy set, all black, you know, shit, wearing boots, and then trying to, I don't know, I guess keep us from doing business or something. But it wasn't anything a can of WD-40 couldn't work out.
We had the communists attack publicly a cat shelter that was on a vacant lot because they said that white women ran it, white liberals, by the way. So they had a cat sanctuary. They've been trying to shut down the Blue Cat Cafe here in Austin. And the news says it's a good thing. The news goes out and agrees and says, oh, yes, these are white people. I'm not kidding. And vandalize the cat thing because that, I mean, it's like, as long as it's SJW, just do it. And I think the media has empowered these people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, not only are they getting a whole bunch of press, it's just like when anything else does anything stupid, people like to watch it a lot. In fact, I really thought that there was somebody out there trying to take video of her doing what she was doing. The way she was talking, it didn't make any sense that somebody would be that dense.
Let's talk about it when we come back. Exactly, just like ISIS does it for recruitment. Let's talk about that and play some of it coming into the store when we come back. This is the real it, folks. Stay with us. Fighting the good fight, just trying to empower humanity. There's nothing more liberal than being able to defend yourself and grow your own crops and raise your children as you see fit and worship God or not worship God. Live and let live. And the globalists have used our open society against us. That's why George Soros calls his group the Open Society. And they have got an army of Antifa that they have at the Golden Globes and that they build up as these heavenly people that come up to my reporters in Austin with trigger fingers on their assault rifles, to use their term. And they say, are you scared? Because we're not letting you onto this park by the Capitol to speak. And Owen Schroyer's by himself. And Owen's a tough guy. He goes, yeah. They go, oh, you're shaking. Your hand's shaking when they're all bumping into him and hitting him and they got their guns. They go, you scared? And he goes, yeah, I'm scared. You're a bunch of thugs with guns bumping into me. They had clubs hitting him in the sides, what they do off camera. So we can't, and again, these people are monsters. What was happening is he was scared because he was about to beat your brains out. And don't think you little Antifa turds, there weren't police snipers trained on you. The point is, it's out of control. And these slugs are all the weakest people you can imagine, but they're empowered by the media and the government, and the police who don't even like them have been told, leave them alone, almost everywhere. So I used to buy into leftist garbage even 10 years ago that the left, before it was called Antifa, really, well, I was told about anti-fascists longer ago than that by Steve Mason. He warned me about them. And I was like, what? And he's like, oh, yeah, the so-called anti-racist groups, they're really racist, and they're communists, Red Brigade, and they're in Austin. And I'm like, okay. He's a documentary filmmaker, a good friend of mine. But I still, until I experienced them coming out in full force, and I remember, Breitbart had articles, and Brandon Darby wrote articles about how they were trying to firebomb stuff, and I said, oh, that's a setup. No, I was wrong, and I apologize for that. Brandon Darby was right about what they do. So I apologize to Brandon Darby for articles not written by me, but by others that I then bought into. So that's a correction years later. And thank God they're in prison. They deserve to be. So speaking to Don Teague, privatesectorarms.com, privatesectorarms.com is the website for his site. We're going to play some of this video here in a moment. But you talked about other attacks and things. What is the climate? How bad do you think it's going to get there after your gun shop got attacked by the person grabbing the Bibles that you were giving away free and throwing them into the glass and on the roof?
Yeah, well, we're kind of, we're up on a hill here, and most of the activity happens downtown. And as it turns out, a lot of the people around here that protest are very lazy at protesting. So they end up going downtown. They start up here. They march down towards City Hall. They make their deal down there. They break a few things. I guess one of the banks got smashed really bad downtown here a few months back. They arrested the guy. He was all masked up. They threw him on the ground. They handcuffed him. Then they pulled the mask off, and judge let him go, as the story goes, because they did not identify him during the time that he actually committed the act, only after they had already arrested him. So there was no way to properly identify him, and so they ended up throwing it out. So, yeah, I mean, the police around here, they're definitely getting told to be hands off. And I hope it doesn't ever come to this, but it just might get to the point where something happens that might be a tragedy, and a lot of people get hurt. And we hope that doesn't happen. The police around here, though, don't get me wrong, these guys are great guys. They do their best with what they have. And I'm sure a lot of them personally feel a lot different than how the city is having them act. And of course, they are required to do their job accordingly.
But I bet if you or I, who are more libertarian and Christian conservatives, if we went in a gun shop and threw Bibles up against the window and cracked it and threw them on the roof and told people they were Nazis, we'd get arrested for disorderly conduct. But I guess you didn't really push for that, did you?
Yeah, no, I wanted to, I wanted them to tell me what the crime was here. I wanted to find out, is there a misdemeanor? What's going on? They pretty much just told me, yeah, she didn't commit any crime. I guarantee you, if those were Qurans, she'd be in jail right now.
Oh, it'd be a hate crime.
Yeah, it would be ridiculous. But of course, if you looked at the video, you noticed that they didn't even know those were my Bibles. They thought those were her Bibles. So when they showed up, what they thought they were against was literally a religious, gender fluid act of something that hadn't quite done anybody.
No. She said, I want to burn these Bibles. She came to destroy your religious freedom. She literally is a book-burning anti-fascist when that's what the fascists do, is burn books.
Right. And of course, I told her, yeah, you could do whatever you want, read it, burn it. I was obviously being sarcastic. I didn't actually expect her to be like, well, actually, I would burn it. Well, that's what the Nazis did. So kind of strange. She's coming in. She's using, she's using the horrible language. And then she's wanting to burn books, asking me if it's strictly Christian. The whole first part of that, Old and New Testament, the whole first part of that is the Torah. So here she says she loves Jews, but she says the K word. I think she might have got offended because when she walked through the door, the first thing she said was, I'll bet you don't even sell to K. And what I thought she said was, I'll bet you don't even sell to dykes. Well, I do, actually. We have a huge transgender community in the area. President of Pink Pistols is one of our #1 fans around here. So, in fact, we do. So my response to that was, hell yeah, I sell to dykes. Well, then she basically corrected me on what it was that she had said, and then walked around, pointed out a few other things, asked me if if I even obey the law, some stuff like that you saw. She grabbed a plastic gun, a rubber ducky in here that was for training. She pointed it at me, pulled the trigger. She looked really depressed that it didn't go bang. So I kind of rubbed the handle of my gun and I told her, you know, that's a fake, right? And she's like, well, that doesn't do me any good then. And so she kind of threw it on the ground. I asked her to put it back. And then that's when I went ahead and started filming it.
We're going to come back in a moment and play.
She was acting weird.
Amazing. We're going to come back in a moment and play some of this. But let's start playing some of it now when she comes in to the facility and starts calling him a Nazi and saying, why do you have Nazi flags? Here it is.
Nothing too complex for you.
No, it's not legal.
Right. You wouldn't do anything illegal, would you?
Of course not. I'm a law-abiding citizen, aren't you?
We're all law-abiding in our own ways. Let's see here. Really, you don't do anything illegal?
Nope. Do you do anything illegal? Why would you come in here and ask me that? That's kind of messed up.
Well, I'm just assuming.
Why are you being aggro, though?
I'm not being aggro. I'm just being, like, inquisitive.
Right. The first thing you did is you came in and asked me if I sell the. I don't even know what that is.
You don't even know
what is it?
Jews.
Jews?
Yeah. I'm surprised if you don't. It's kind of
well, I would sell the Jews, sure.
Really? That's functionally funny.
You don't like Jews much?
No, I love Jews. I just don't.
Again, we're bleeping the K word and all that because they'll say we did it.
Why would you be surprised that I don't hate them?
It's just because.
Right, but I just told you that that wasn't Nazi.
I don't get it then, actually. If it's not Nazi, I don't know what it is. Still, I mean, it's, you know.
You are familiar with the Nazis, though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Swastikas and all that.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, so it's very publicized what actually stands for them.
Interesting. Fascinating.
Those are free. You can take one of those if you want.
Free Bibles?
Sure.
Are these,
You can read it, burn it, do whatever you want with it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's actually nice of you, because I would burn it.
Okay.
But, I mean, actually, are these...
All right, folks, we'll be back with the craziness going on outside Evergreen College in Olympia, Washington, where truly the inmates are free, running wild like Day of the Dead, and they think we're all Nazis, and they're out to get us. They're just lunatics. Now, here's the deal. We're talking to Don Teague, owner there in Olympia, Washington, of a firearms store. You got to be brave to do that. Such great people out in the middle of Washington, actually, you know, lumberjacks and farmers just go right outside those little country towns. Everybody's a listener. Walk in any of those cities, man, I am attacked in 60 seconds. I mean, old ladies come over. It happens in Austin now. They'll just scream, you Nazi, you Russian. They'll even slap me in the back of the head or knock your glass of water over. And you've been dehumanized. It's like a Nazi literally in Germany going, you Jew. You know, just an excuse to hate whoever they want. And then, of course, it spilled over into everybody. And I'm not being a victim here. I'm just saying the Antifa came out of the Red Brigades, Mao Brigades, 30 years ago. It's a fact. They've written books. It's who they are. And they believe that violence is the way to anybody that's establishment or bourgeois or bougie. And they can have nice cars and houses and things. In fact, usually they're middle class or wealthy. You can't. And what they really are is just a dangerous group, but then their followers are crazy. They'll get like 25-year-old guys on average, like we've got footage, and we followed some of these people back and figured out who they are because we got to do something about this. And then once stuff starts happening to them, all totally legal, they flip out. They can't believe that we're actually pushing back, you know. You want to follow families, their cars, you want to threaten people, you want to do stuff, well, we're following you, okay? So when we're going to be there when your mask is off, because you are a terrorist organization. You've been listed as this in many areas. And the entitlement that they just get to demonize you and that they get to have violence because, quote, you're a racist is just insane garbage. And these people are all going to end up in prison. You're not going to have your communist take over. You're not going to win. Even if the communists took over, this would be the first group they got rid of. So I wanted to give Don Teague, as we finish up some of this video, just the pitifulness. We've got Antifa knocking women on the head and, you know, stabbing people and burning stuff. We could, but to get one with their mask off or to get one of their followers with the mask off and just the kind of stumbling around and weird and you try to humanize them, you try to talk to them, and it seems to only make them madder. Don, you're a smart guy. Other key points you'd like to add about this phenomenon, because this is how the Mal Brigade started, with a bunch of useful idiots. This is very dangerous to allow this to go on in America, in my view. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're receiving a lot of help online. People are putting out videos going, hey, this is what this Antifa is about. They're putting out videos of people that are a lot more combative and abusive. They're giving people ideas around here like this, because we just passed this law, or we just decided we were going to not enforce these laws, and it's been noticed by these groups. They're giving these people advice on how to take it right up to that line. This is what you could do as long as nobody put hands on you, or you don't put hands on somebody, or, you know, you use this and you don't point it at them, or you just infer about this. And so they have this kind of passive aggressive scenario thing that goes on. And if it stays like that, then really the only weapon that it's going to use against us is ourselves anyway. You lose control, you lose your mind. It's obvious that you're going to get upset when they start doing things like this. You're going to want to yell, you're going to want to scream right back into their face. But when that passive aggressiveness just starts to grind down on you, you have to remind yourself truly about what's important, and that's how you conduct yourself. And by conducting yourself appropriately, by raising your kids appropriately with a fear of God or a fear of a higher power, the fact that this is exactly how you're supposed to treat people, this is how you treat your elders, whether you come from whatever kind of family that you come from, the understanding that people are naturally good, and as long as we're raising our kids properly, we're not going to put these things out on the street.
And like you said, you're not saying she's the one that attacked the store before and spray painted all the garbage and put super glue. Right. That's what Antifa does. You're saying it's on the surveillance cameras. You were saying someone that looked like this person. Well,
yeah, balls, bag, black, clothes, boots, all the usual.
The accoutrement. And the classic Nazi accoutrement. You know, it's funny. They actually, nothing against people that wear black. I wear black a lot. You know, it's slimming. I like it. It's simple. Sure. But when you're wearing combat boots and all black, and you're wearing a little black cap, and you're engaged in street violence, and you're calling people Nazis, it's just a little weird when you're wearing a Nazi outfit.
Right. Yeah. And if you notice, when she first came in more like a man. And then by the time she threw stuff around, where I'm assuming she thought that this was going to be the last straw that broke the camel's back, and I was going to come running out there and do something stupid. But if you notice, by the time she walked back in, she was wearing pink rimmed glasses. She had her hair all pulled down. She definitely, you could tell it was a woman at this point, which later on, after, a month later, when she started attacking our intern and his wife while having dinner, the officer during that time, the same officer that showed up during that time, did actually identify her as a female.
See, I should have asked you the history of this up front. I'm not good at interviews. In fact, Don, when we put this up on YouTube and Facebook, I'm going to put this intro part right on the front. Tell people just in 2 minutes what happened and then the history of this person harassing you.
Yeah, so she comes in, she starts telling me, asking me if I sell to a bad anti-Semitic word, and at which point she educates me on what that means. She accused me of being a Nazi. She runs around, she speaks passively aggressively about everything in the store. She picks and chooses, tries to push me over and over again, and then finds the Bibles. I tell her she can have some. She said she's going to burn them. She takes the whole stack, throws them out the door, pegs the front store with it, however so gently, tries to throw them up onto the roof with her 4-year-old jumping throws.
Sure, and you've been attacked before, but the big part I wanted to get to was the what happened to your intern? Something else happened?
Oh, yeah. So about a month later, he goes up and he's eating at a store with his wife. She shows up. She identifies him. I think he was open carrying. That might have been the reason why she saw that he had a gun, so she decided to go kind of attack him a little bit. And then she probably noticed that he was wearing the same logoed shirt that he always wears when he gets off work. And so she started filming herself on her phone, screaming at him and yelling at him and calling him all kinds of names and a Nazi. And then she grabbed his chicken nuggets off the table, stuffed them in her mouth, kicked the rest of them on the floor. He immediately called the police. They showed up eventually after she followed him out into the parking lot because he removed himself from the situation to be on the phone with 911. She follows him out to the parking lot, starts kicking and putting the boots to his car. Not, you know, not any major surface damage.
Sure, but that's still illegal. Did she get in trouble?
But still, right?
She,
it's still an aggravated.
Did she get in trouble?
It's an assault, right? So she did not get in trouble. The exact same officers were the ones that showed up earlier. They once again said that no crime had been committed and that they could not commit an arrest because of an RCW rule in Washington State unless that act had happened directly in front of them.
Now, this is coming to a head. Don, stay in touch with us. Godspeed. Now, these people are just out of control, and they're getting trained to do this. I told you, they grab your food. They do it to me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and break this next hour. Crew's been working on it today, and these appear to be authentic, and it ties into my deep research on how they've already operated before and what they've been caught doing in other countries, both in Europe, the third world, you name it. These documents purport to show George Soros' son, who does honcho and finance most of the Antifa, the women's marches, led by Linda Sarsour with her burqa on and the obscenity that she leads the women of America right into Islam. Just like the EU has TV ads that tell young girls to date fully grown Muslim men. That's a wonderful idea. And we were just showing those clips earlier. I mean, this is just insane. These documents purport to show, they appear to be real. These are non-disclosure agreements and contracts for Antifa to cause civil unrest in Baltimore, with the media hyping up all the race war stuff. And those riots did lead to some deaths. And that would trigger a feedback loop to cause civil unrest and martial law nationwide. And we had said Obama's trying to kick off civil unrest to be able to have an excuse for martial law. And he put a lot of things in place for that. So when I was reading these documents, it's all what we know they've really been up to. But we're going to try to get the provenance of the documents, and we've been giving those to the FBI and other groups. So we're going to definitely work on this. But I didn't do this on purpose. You know, I was wanting to get this guest on a few days ago, and we just got Don Teague on today, who's had his gun shop attacked repeatedly, the windows spray painted, you know, F you racist, Nazi, and the doors glued shut and other things, and people coming in and breaking things and throwing Bibles everywhere and throwing them on the roof and screaming, and then attacking his employees and in restaurants, and they see his logo. This is what it's like to be outside Evergreen University, where the professors were locked in their classrooms, taken hostage, and told that whites are inherently evil by the whites leading the minorities, and they have the non-white day. And when professors said it was racist, they were kicked off by the faculty. So this is a true cult, and we're just talking about how they're building this army for violence. It's not like they're going to take over when they have full-page ads. Let's print that. Remember a few months ago in November for rioting nationwide, overthrowing Trump November 4th, a couple months ago. That didn't happen. That they're trying to do it. And then we talk about it and say, list them as terrorists. And then they don't want to discuss that either because they don't want us to have a discussion about it. So, Don, I wanted you to be able to finish up with the police not saying they can't do anything when she kicked your employee's car door, ate his food, turned it over. I didn't even know that story. I was telling you how they do that to my food. And they're trying to get you to punch them in the face. And of course, I mean, we know they're being trained, and then here are documents that basically inculcate how they're being trained, and now they're showing up with guns on the streets saying, we're not letting you have your free speech, which is racketeering. So, closing comments.
Yeah, so like with that thing, I'm just saying those police officers probably did whatever there was that they could. But then after that, they came right down. They broke the no trespass order when she came down in here, literally right after the police let her off of attacking this other guy. And then when we called the police department, we did have them on speakerphone asking them directly if, you know, we had video that she had been in here, she had committed the trespass, she had broken that. Was there anything they were going to do about it? And they confirmed that they would do absolutely nothing for it. So just remember to watch your own back and take care of yourself when you can. Take care of each other. And
yeah, these are safe zones for these people to commit these crimes. And then finally, if somebody fights back, they're the cause celeb and a poor baby. And the president says, hey, both sides were fighting. You know, they're in Virginia and Antifa's bad. Oh, no, Antifa, they're not bad. They're wonderful people.
Right. Yeah, it's ludicrous. You can't even compare the two of what's going on.
So how many times total have you had the shop attacked? Has this person shown up, or have your employees been screamed at, their food stolen, their cars attacked?
Yeah, so far, with the one person, we've had 3 points of contact, and then that's assuming that was a different person that attacked us the first time.
Wow. Okay, Don Teague, you've got Nico Acosta's number, our lead producer. Call us the minute anything happens, please, okay?
Yep, will do. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate
God bless you, Don Teague.
God bless you.
Wow, it just never ends, man. And then we've got these documents that are just incredible, and then you read them, and it's exactly what they do. And that's why they're stopping our free speech, because I can't go out to one of these pro-America rallies, pro-Trump rallies, pro-gun rallies, because if communists come over to me and say, are you scared, and got their finger on your trigger, I mean, I just can't do it. It's not like I'm Mr. Tough Guy either. It's fight or flight. I don't have the good reverse. I actually wish I did. And, you know, I got so upset that when I saw them bullying Owen, that I just felt guilty that I didn't have people out there with him. I just can't handle it anymore. And I'm not being dramatic here. These people are the scum of the earth, literally funded by a dirtbag Nazi collaborator who helped round up his fellow Jews and then overthrow dozens of countries, overthrow Ukraine using the very tactics of starting riots and killing police. And then they overthrew the government of Ukraine. People say, this is so bold. He's done it all over the place. He told Fareed Zakaria on CNN that I gave billions of dollars to overthrow Ukraine. I'm very proud of myself. I do a very good. It's like this demon toad with his demon son who goes to spirit cooking Aleister Crowley events and looks all creepy and weak. But you know what? We won't stand up to him, so I guess that's how the cow ate the cabbage. When we come back and start the next segment, I'm going to go ahead and play. We got a couple videos, but where it shows CNN going, Alex Jones made it up that George Soros was a Nazi collaborator. And then I cut to him on 60 Minutes admitting it and saying he's not ashamed of it. I did whatever I had to do to survive. I've had Hollywood folks go, we know Soros is bad, but, you know, it's kind of anti-Semitic to talk bad about him. This was years ago. And, you know, they would have killed him if he hadn't done this. And I'm like, wow. That's how you get in that position is incrementally people bully you into submission like Antifa's doing. And then finally, I'm not going to lift a finger up. I'm going to go help the Nazis. The one thing if you went and hid. But you're going to go help them, and then you're the one calling everybody Nazis when you are worse than the Nazis because you're somebody that betrayed your own people to them. Look up Alex Soros. I mean, you look at him, he's creepier looking than Brian Stelter or Hillary Clinton. It's like, where do they get these people? Everybody's so scared of them. Well, I'm not scared of them, and I'm scared of failure. I'm scared I'm not strong enough to do enough against them, and I just pray that you pray for, oh, God, that's not even one of the bad ones. Type him partying or him drunk or him bombed out of his brain or him spirit cooking, and you'll see the stuff. You'll see them with a woman supposedly for mock sacrifice being carried along behind him, and he's like smiling at you. I mean, just look at him. Talk about entitled. Let's put Alex Soros back on screen if we can. And just understand that he thinks he's going to beat you. He thinks he's better than you. He thinks he's got you. He and his father think they're unstoppable. These are horrible, horrible, selfish people that are whacked out of their minds, completely mentally ill. And they think, I mean, just look at that narcissism. And notice these guys never show their teeth because they look so psychotic. Their PR people say, look, you don't see it, but do not smile. But you can find him. Type in Alex Soros smiling. And I mean, man, you talk about big bad wolf, but this is like the 10th generation of the big bad wolf. So this is like the, you know, the mental munchkin. And it's just, give me a break. Give me a break. But you know what? They want to start a civil war down the streets. So that's how they can, you know, get at the American people. But you know what? You're failing, and you're going to continue to go on to fail because you've been identified, scumbag. So you keep having Media Matters, write their talking points about us, and launch all your behind-the-scenes stuff because our audience, I know, are the best out there. And no matter what you do or what you lie about or what you push or who you try to buy off or what scams you run, they know the truth about us. You judge a tree by its fruits, and they are financially, supporting us. They're spreading the articles, the videos, the subscriptions. They are telling their coworkers, their neighbors, their church about it, their coworkers, and they are ringing the alarm bells like Paul Revere's of every race, color, and creed. There's only one race, the human race, and we are standing against evil. Whether you're from China or whether you're from Germany or whether you're from Mexico or whether you're a Muslim that wants to be free or a Christian or a Jew or even an agnostic, and there's a lot of atheists that don't like globalism that I think overall are good people. I think they're wrong, but, you know, whatever. We're going to stand against you, and your plan to divide us all against each other is failing, and you're losing. And you're going to lose everywhere. George Soros overthrew the elected government of Ukraine to loot that country, and he funded all the dossiers and crap that's come out to put out the Russiagate thing because he's a dirtbag, upset he can't suck the blood out of Russia anymore, and he is a failure. And he is going to go to the pit of hell where demons go. Thank you, God, for letting us get in the position of at least being able to fight back against these globalists and get off our knees. God's the only reason we're starting to turn a little bit of this around. You know a man by his enemies. You know Trump's good by these enemies. I want to play part of this powerful report from Infowars.com with Millie Weaver. The People's Choice Awards, looking forward to Trump's deal in 7 days with his fake news awards that have got the globalists so scared as we take the narrative away from them. And then proof of organized crime and terrorism that is incontrovertible and incredibly damning if it's real. So I read these documents, they look real, and everything in them is what I've seen in the playbook manifested by Antifa, and we know what the Justice Department was involved in with the whole race riot stuff the last 4 years of Obama. It failed because America came together and things like Houston got hit by the hurricane, and that was so unifying. But this is huge. And Trump has to act against Soros and others if these documents are real. We're going to get to these in the next segment. Let's play part of the Millie Weaver report that's on newswars.com.
Millie Weaver reporting for Infowars.com. Well, President Donald Trump has announced that on Wednesday, January the 17th, he will be announcing his fake news awards.
CNN fake.
Which I'm sure is going to cause a lot of stir within Twitter and social media. So we're here in Austin, Texas, and let's go ask Austin who they think deserves a fake news award. Who do you think should win a fake news award? CNN.
We're actually correcting a story that we have been reporting, and this appears to change the understanding of this story.
Who do you think should win a fake news award?
Donald Trump. He says everyone reports fake news, but he's the biggest fake news reporter.
Wrong.
What has he reported that's fake news?
Oh, I haven't listened lately. I just stopped listening.
So you don't really have anything specific?
Well, yeah, well, a few weeks ago, he was saying all kind of stuff about, God, I don't remember, but it was fake news.
Wrong.
Do you think all of the media is credible in the United States?
No.
No?
No.
So you trust CNN, ABC, NBC?
I don't know who to trust.
Who do you expect that he'll give a fake news award to?
I didn't know there were awards.
Jake Tapper.
Jake Tapper, you think he should go in?
I'm a big fan, though, so no, I'm pretty biased. I mean, everyone is. But yeah, no, I like Jake Tapper. He should get some award this year.
And I think I've wasted enough of my viewers' time.
Who do you think should win a fake news award?
Well, based on recent events, probably Tapper over at CNN.
My 7-year-old son now, whenever I'm bothering him, he goes, "Fake news."
People report things that aren't always the truth. I can't say that they're just not credible. It's just you hear things and then they report them and maybe didn't do fact checking, but I think that every news source is probably guilty of that.
The editors of CNN Money said no more of this. If you're going to do any more stories on Donald Trump and connections to Russia, it needs to go by the top brass. And I think it's a few months too late.
What do you think about CNN? Is CNN fake news?
Well, I'm technically a college student still, and we're allowed to use CNN as a reference. You get like an approved listing of where you can get so usually it's like New York Times or like CNN.
And Fox News isn't on there?
Nothing is real news. There is no real news out there.
Do you think CNN should win a fake news award?
No, I think they should all win a fake news award. You know what I'm saying? They all lie to you in some way or another. Whether they directly lie to you or they just kind of like throw some butter over the fucking truth. You know what I'm saying? Just what slides down your fucking throat a little easier.
Brian Williams has anchored NBC's nightly news broadcast for more than a decade. On Wednesday, Williams said he was sorry for saying his helicopter in Iraq was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade in 2003. That never happened.
I think they just try to, like, you know, I don't know, just persuade America to believe something that's not even true.
It's a hardcore tie between MSNBC and CNN. Like, they're really going at it. They try their best to just trick everyone.
But overall, I think anyone over there could probably be at the top of the list for awards. Anyone at CNN.
This is Soros's love letter to the world. Du hast mich means I hate you. Well, you know, I say, my Lieblings, I love you. Du hast mich. Imagine when he's helping the Nazis round up all those thousands of Jews. He sure had a good time. He's proud of it, George Soros. But don't worry. I want to play that clip, guys. We have several of them of him on 60 Minutes saying, I helped the Nazis. I'm not ashamed of it. It's how I survived. And then all these other shows saying I'm a liar. Now, I'm going to play that clip, and then I'm going to turn over this segment to Roger Stone, who's co-hosting, because we've got such bombshell breaking news that there's some other pieces of it, some other exhibits that I want to get to you coming up in the next segment. But do we have that clip I was asking for earlier, guys, about... Okay, so again, they say I make it up that Soros was a Nazi collaborator, and this is all over the news. This is the facelift for this guy. And then he has an army of people that dress like Nazis trying to stop free speech and have civil unrest. And we're going to show you documents. And what's shocking about the documents is, if they're real, it's proof of total terrorism, criminal activity, racketeering. I mean, it's cut and dry. Antifa's already getting declared terrorist by Homeland Security, by the state of New Jersey and other areas. But it's all tied to Soros that funds it. And if this is indeed accurate, then it is bombshell. And what's interesting in reading the documents is everything in it is in other pieces of their own press releases and full-page ads. So if it is a forgery, someone took what they've said and done and put it in this as just a way to say, look, why doesn't anybody, you know, do anything about this? So we're going to analyze that in a few minutes. But right now, and of course the media said that this was fake. When I covered this, they had dozens of major newspapers say, Jones is a liar. There was no New York Times full-page ad. And people went and actually got it. They said, yeah, it is. And then you go to their website, and it was there. And this is Antifa. This is the group funded by George Soros, Refuse Fascism. And that's what's in the documents. So you're going to see some incredible stuff coming up here in just a few minutes. But let's go ahead and play the clip of Anderson Cooper, CIA, leftist, one of the wealthiest men in America, from one of the biggest dynasties, talk about a silver spoon, telling you that George Soros is actually, hell, he stormed the beaches at Normandy with a knife in his teeth, and he killed 5,000 Nazis himself and saved 1 million Jews.
That's right. I heard it on CNN.
I heard it on CNN, and his crap doesn't stink either, but he sure looks like an old Leatherface. So let's go ahead and play that clip. Then Roger Stone takes over. We'll be back in the next segment.
It's the claim that the August protest was some sort of left-wing plot. Who, you might ask, would say something so offensive? An elected representative who's serving right now in the U.S. Congress.
And look at the background. George Soros is one of those people that actually helps, you know, back these individuals. Who is he?
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
Was it difficult?
Not at all.
Do you think George Soros funded the neo-Nazis who marched in Charlottesville?
Wouldn't it be interesting to find out?
These conspiracy theories were first spread by radio talk show host Alex Jones.
Is this lost on anyone? George Soros is a famous Nazi collaborator.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
Roger, you take over while we collate, get ready for the next segment of Bombshell Info. Tell us what's coming up after we break this down next segment.
Efforts by Facebook to censor a new Roe v. Wade movie. We are going to look at Senator Dianne Feinstein's incredible action in the GPS fusion matter, where she has unilaterally released full testimony, allowing other witnesses to synchronize their testimony to facilitate a cover-up. And we're going to focus in again on Mr. Soros and his activities, which clearly violate the law. There's a difference between the First Amendment and fomenting violence and advocating the murder of others. It's high time for the Justice Department to launch a crackdown on Mr. Soros. We are also going to comment on the deafening silence. I hear nothing from Brian Stelter. Brian, where are you? It was only days ago when Alex Jones laid down the challenge, $1 million, to the charity of Brian Stelter's choice to climb in the ring with Alex Jones. So where is the demon spawn? Why do we hear nothing but silence? Now, today, I'm going to double down. I will be Alex Jones's second, and I'm laying down the challenge to Jake, also known as Fake Tapper, the faux journalist who you saw only seconds ago on your screen. So a second $1 million. Climb in the ring with me. I will be Alex Jones's second. My guess, the boys at CNN don't have the cojones to face us. Yet they continue to promulgate the myth that George Soros is just some benign philanthropist. They deny his Nazi past. Yesterday on The War Room, my colleague Tyler Nixon exposed incredible new documents absolutely proving the Soros plan to foment violence in the United States. Now, this is not new, really. Julian Assange at WikiLeaks laid out for us chapter and verse how Soros was paying for the violence at Donald Trump's campaign rallies. At a certain point, one must ask, how is it that you can urge others to advocate the assassination of the president? You can urge others to advocate violence against other Americans and not be violating the federal law. Will someone wake Jeff Sessions up? Will someone tell the Justice Department that George Soros lives in New York City in a life of opulent and lavish wealth, and that, yes, he too shall be prosecuted for his crimes? We were told in the aftermath of Watergate that no person is above the law. Yet we continue to exist with revelation after revelation against Hillary Clinton, her husband Bill, their greedy little daughter Chelsea, Barack Obama trafficking guns to ISIS, trafficking guns to Al-Qaeda, covering up the illicit drug trafficking within these United States by ISIS so as not to upset their fragile Iranian nuclear deal. And yet our Justice Department continues to do nothing. It shakes one's faith, but then you have a stunning result, as we saw in Las Vegas 2 days ago, where a federal judge declared that the Cliven Bundy family would not be retried because of gross mismanagement and falsehood by the U.S. government, the U.S. attorney, in which they hid exculpatory information from the defense in violation of the law and the Constitution. Therefore, it restores one's faith in our judicial system. It shows that there is a God in heaven. It shows that our prayers here at InfoWars for the Bundy family have been realized by a benevolent God, and that justice has been done in that case. Let me take a final second here to point out that if you like the reporting here at InfoWars, if you like our 10 hours a day, if you like the real news with David Knight and what we're doing at the War Room later in the afternoon after the Alex Jones Show, please, folks, go to the InfoWars store now and give us your support. Incredible products, incredible prices, and you fund the fight for freedom. Help us by going to the InfoWars store now.
It's documents like this that make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I remember it was 8 years ago. Obama had been in office about a year and a half, and we got documents from federal marshals. And then when I showed those documents on air and covered them, about 2 days later, state police officer in California sent me the information. And it wasn't the exact same documents. It was a variant of it. We learned it was the Southern Poverty Law Center, and ADL had put them out. So I know how to look at these documents. And when I read over these new ones that are so huge, I said either somebody super smart took all the main statements of these groups and things they've done and things they've said they're doing, because Antifa has the same tactics nationwide and worldwide, overthrowing countries. George Soros funds them. He brags about it, Ukraine, you name it. That somebody took this and put their agenda into it to bring attention to it. But as you said, we were talking earlier, I've got Harrison Smith in here, one of our great researchers and videographers. If these documents are real, posted to 4chan, who breaks more news, real news, than the New York Times and the Washington Post combined, if this is real, then this is the smoking gun, because we know they're funding it. Soros brags he overthrows countries, crashes things. Antifa was in the New York Times on November 1st saying, starting November 4th, it begins. Drive Trump from office. You go to refusefascism.org, they say, we're going to be violent up front. We're allowed to because you're all Nazis. If you're a capitalist, you deserve it. Kill the cops, you name it. I mean, this is what they push. They've now been listed as a terrorist organization. So these documents are in line with what they already admit. And I'm going to get Roger Stone riding shotgun with us, former head of the Trump campaign, but just walk through where these come from, what the backstory is purportedly on these, and we're going to document cam for TV viewers. Adon Salazar is writing a blurb about this with the documents to go up on Infowars.com and Newswars.com. But out of the gates, the material in the Russian dossier is all been proven completely fake, and it was fake on its front from the beginning. When you read these documents, it's real stuff, real plans, things they've said before just put together, and reportedly a non-disclosure document and contract.
Right.
So please, as we swing the document cam over, this is Friends of Democracy, a group admittedly run by George Soros's aide apparent, Alexander Soros. You've got the floor here for the rest of the segment, and we'll come back with Roger and break this down. Tell us exactly what we're looking at here.
Sure. Well, like you said, we can theorize and we can have sort of the point-by-point timeline what happens, but until we have the actual documents, I mean, this is, if these are true, this is the smoking gun. And we really, right now, we have researchers trying to figure out whether or not these are authentic. They seem authentic to me. The only real problem with it is that they are almost too good to be true. It almost says exactly what we would expect them to say, and it's almost like too.
But we have them on CNN and MSNBC saying we're going to be violent, we're allowed to attack you and kill you, we're coming, we're going to kill the president. I mean, they're saying all this in public.
Absolutely. And at the time, so these documents have to do with the 2015 Baltimore riots, the Black Lives Matter riots that were inspired.
Which we know was funded by the Justice Department.
Yes. Well, yeah, we know that a lot of people were putting funds into all these riots that, of course, started with Ferguson and spread throughout all of these things. So, so this goes back to 2015, and where this comes from is there is a user on 4chan, and 4chan is a totally anonymous website. You can
sure, it's like a place for WikiLeaks.
Yeah, it's like WikiLeaks. There's obviously a lot of fake stuff posted there, probably, but this seems pretty real. And so a user says that his brother basically was a loser, a loner, barely had a job, and yet recently, in the last couple of years, he'd taken to traveling around the United States. So this guy who leaked it said he was a little suspicious.
Which they admit, Soros is funding a group of about 1,000 that they fly around.
Well, he just gave $18 billion. I mean, what you could do with that money is ridiculous. So obviously there's tons of funds to fly people around, to program these people, train these people.
So I'm saying what you read in here is what they're doing.
Right.
Continue.
Right. And so this leaker says he went looking through his brother's stuff, basically looking for proof of of where his brother was getting his money. He thought maybe it was going to be drugs. He was looking for sort of proof that his brother was maybe involved in something he shouldn't be involved in. Well, he found these documents. And so these documents he took a picture of with his cell phone and then posted them to 4chan. And it's an action document from the Friends of Democracy, which is a PAC by George Soros' son, that its mission statement is to get money out of politics. So that's funny enough. But this is action BWI 041815. BWI is the airport code for Baltimore. 0418 is April 18th, which is 2015, which is the date that the riots started. And this says that the Action Oversight Committee of the Friends of Democracy has determined that on this Saturday, operators will implement action 041315 in part to seize as much momentum as possible from current civil unrest in the Baltimore area. Friendly officials in various administrative agencies for Baltimore have told us to expect large law enforcement response to our operations. So it talks about friendly
But then they selectively did stand down in Baltimore and let Antifa attack.
Oh, it literally says that. It says agit-orgs. They have this like militaristic and Orwellian way of describing everything. So agit-orgs, which I guess is agitation organizers, at each act point have a specific
That's all agitprop. That's all Soviet.
It sounds very Soviet. And they have specific departure times and must travel on designated routes. These routes have been guaranteed by friendly Baltimore officials and law enforcement as safe for ops and aux-ops. So this entire thing is coordinated.
They're given safe zones. They're coordinated, just like we saw in Charlottesville. They were all coordinated with the police.
Not
yet. Which later confirmed when I said the media attack that they were ordered to stand down.
In order to funnel rioters against each other to cause violence. Yeah, this hasn't stopped. I mean, this was in 2015. It's only probably gotten worse.
I believe these documents are real.
They seem extremely real, and they have signatures at the bottom that all seem like they come from different hands. I mean, it would be hard to fake all of these signatures.
And is that his brother's signature?
We don't know.
Let's continue.
Yeah, we haven't been able to identify that. But they have not only do they have friendly law enforcement in there, they actually are communicating with them during the riot.
And this is called Level 7. So they're even, and Soros is set up as a private intelligence op. That's why the last James Bond movie, they admit, is based on him and his quantum group, which is his real group.
Yep. And so these two are the most important ones. It's post-action objectives, and this is where it almost seems like it's too good to be true. The primary objectives
Because if this is true, it's smoking gun of organized crime terrorism.
100%. Ideal objective outcome. Civil unrest that leads to the deployment of martial law-like policies for Baltimore, creating a feedback loop. Literally, they're saying it here.
Take it nationwide.
Yeah. Well,
it's a detonator.
Well, and they want to cause violence against the police, to inspire police response, to inspire more conflict with police.
Make a war with local government for federal takeover, which Lynch was announcing the Strong Cities Initiative and announcing the UN to federalize cities under civil emergency, mainstream news.
And at the same time, the Open Societies Foundation was sending people in secret to lobby the government for federal oversight or federal control of local police. So literally, they're making the problem with one hand and offering the solution with the other. The solution is, of course, more control, more federalization, centralization.
And these documents are going live on Infowars.com as we speak. We're going to come back at Roger Stone's take on this and get into the heart of these documents with one of our great researchers, videographers. So great to have Harrison Smith here with us. I really am always pushing him to get more on air. We're going to start a whole new show soon with the great crew here. Zach back there and other folks are really smart. So we're going to get everybody on air. We're going to get Daria on air. We're going to get Allie on air. We're going to get everybody. We're going to get Matt on air. Everybody's going to be on air. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And Harrison Smith and Roger Stone, who was dead on about Bannon at least 8 months ago. He went from why is Bannon doing nothing? Why is Bannon helping him? Why is he bringing in deep staters to 8 months ago? We got to come out against him. We got to do it. He's an operative. He's getting 25th Amendment ready. I'm told he's bringing in all these bad people. He's the leaker. And I'm like, Roger, I think you're wrong. And Roger respected me enough to... He started working with us to not go on this crusade, which was correct. But maybe Bannon wouldn't have revealed himself. Maybe they would have pulled the book. That's a whole other subject. He's going to bring that up. Point is, we break next year's news today, as we say. So Roger Stone, normally hosting this hour, pretty similar on 20 Hours a Day Live. So Roger will have more hours than he ever wants. We're breaking this incredible news. It just went live on Infowars.com. I'm told Don Salazar has posted it with the documents. Roger, you just heard about these documents. We're trying to authenticate them, but everything in them has been public statements by Antifa, by the globalists, of their plan. And this appears, if real, to be a serious smoking gun, tying it altogether with the funding that we know they're involved in. What do you make of this?
Well, first of all, Alex, my congratulations to Harrison Smith and Rob Dew for getting the entire document. We first learned of this and reported it yesterday on the War Room, but we had only obtained 3 pages of what appears to be a blueprint for revolution, a game plan for the violent overthrow of the American system. Now, Harrison, I believe, has turned up the entire document, and it is the veritable smoking gun. In the meantime, we've had the opportunity to show this document to some of our sources in U.S. Army intelligence, and they tell us they believe they are authentic. Now, don't hold your breath if you don't see coverage of this stunning development on CNN in tonight's news. No, I think that's unlikely. What we do have here, though, is an extraordinary expose of exactly what George Soros has in mind for America and why it's time for the U.S. Justice Department to recognize Soros for what he is, Alex. Not some benign old philanthropist, but a criminal who is using violence and financing violence to overturn our system of democracy.
Our republic. And to be clear, everything in this document, other than the signatures and things, is things they've done word for word and their plans and actually what they've said. And then Soros is admittedly with his son admittedly does run these groups, is honchoing it, is doing this, and has overthrown other governments with it. And they said on the news that they're going to use anti-funds. CNN says they're legitimate. So, again, somebody either wrote a big article about what they've admittedly done, put it in document form, skills I've never seen, or it's completely authentic. But either way, it is very damning. Harrison, let's go through more of the document in the time we have here.
Sure. Yeah. Speaking of the violence, this is supposedly in this packet there are 26 pages, or at least at the bottom of these pages it'll say 1 out of 22, 1 out of 26. So we have 6 documents, which is the total amount that is online right now, and they're actually hard to find. And the fact that they've been scrubbed pretty much as soon as they're put up is one of the reasons that I think they're authentic. But speaking of violence, this is page 9, and it's escalation level 3 or 4. It says, quote, "The decision to escalate to 3 or 4 is based upon assessment from the committee along with information from law enforcement and Baltimore officials." Again, this means that law enforcement and Baltimore officials...
And they admittedly had a stand down.
Yeah, they did. The mayor, I believe, admitted it. And
she said Obama told her to.
I didn't know that.
You pull that up. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, and so...
Justice Department told her.
So that means that, I mean, this was a protest against the police, that the police are actively organizing and manipulating while it's actually happening. That's what this is saying. And so what it says is that escalation level 3 and 4, that basically means attacking buildings and destroying storefronts and that sort of thing. But it says that we've coordinated with several local businesses and their insurance agencies to ensure the recovery of their assets and repair of their infrastructure in the event that either is harmed during the demonstration. So the layers of collusion that are going on.
It's all synthetic in a leftist city.
Not just, I mean, literally, it's like play acting. They're like, yeah, there's the story.
Well, that's why they admittedly, for other areas, admittedly hire action role players and actors to do it, and then they simulate it. It's all...
Well, and that's who, and again, this document breaks down actually the chain of command, where they have the adjut orgs, and then they have the operators, and then they have the auxiliary operators, and then they say, you know, oh, you're allowed to use weapons, which they call props. You're allowed to use those as long as other demonstrators have done it first. So they're edging and
they even have a law enforcement threat continuum.
And they're pushing the people who really are there, because you know, people that went to these riots, a lot of them, that emotion was real. They really were going to protest, but they're being manipulated and puppeteered and encouraged in a certain way, so the outcome of the controllers is reached. They're basically being made to enslave themselves in a lot of ways. And here's another interesting.
So this is either real or someone who has intimate knowledge of their actual attack profile has this.
Right. If this was fake, it would just be impressive that they were able to fake this so
well, I'm not bragging, but I mean, I'm an expert on the anti-fascist and the Black Lives Matter and the globalists, going back to Seattle, covering it there. This is the maximum knowledge of them.
Yeah.
This has got to be real. Or again, someone who has been inside made it.
Right. And so here's another interesting thing. This says that we are expecting possible injuries, if not from today's action, then very likely during action BWI 042515. On the 25th of April, if you look at the Wikipedia, it says like 18th, protest begins, 25th, violence escalates.
And again, they say in the New York Times, the nightmare must end. The Trump-Pence regime must go. November 4th, it begins. Be there. Join with thousands who gather in cities and towns across the country, a movement of protests that continue every day, every night, growing until we become millions determined to stop until this regime is driven from power. And then it goes through it on the plan, calling for violence on the website.
Right. You know, that's a $100,000 ad. You can't do that.
You know what shocked me? Stuff on the site is word for word from that.
Well, and it talks about the agitation of local civilian population, the escalation of civil unrest, the provocation of hostile, they say hostile law enforcement, which hostile probably just means
ones they don't control, people that might actually stand up. No, when we were in D.C. for the inauguration, the cops were later admitted, ordered to stand down. They were the Antifa was able to beat up with Black Lives Matter, families just trying to get in, even press just trying to get in. They mainly targeted women for some reason, trying to get men to fight back, knowing men will fight if you go after a woman. And then they admitted we're targeting women to do this, and it took me hours to get in. Then they said no one was there. This is simply astonishing.
Okay, and so here we see some of the outline of the funding, how they're paid, when they're paid. You have this sticky note that supposedly is from this guy who the documents belong to, is maybe calculating his take, which seems to be $26,000 for one person for this one event, as well as travel because he didn't live in the same city. And
it appears from the document he's a squad leader.
Right,
he's level 7.
The operator.
This may be to operate the whole node he's bringing in.
Yeah, it seems like these documents are the operator level.
This is a platoon funding.
Right, and there'd be people above him who are called adjut orgs and people below him who he would probably control called auxiliary ops. And who knows, you know, how much knowledge they actually have of what they're involved in. But that shows, and it says, do not report this income to anybody. They've handled it with the tax authorities and accounting firms. I mean, the levels of collusion just don't end. And then finally, they have this approved practices, which really, I mean, it just blatantly says, you know, closed fist may be used only below the neck and above the belt. Kicking is not permitted unless provoked. Props, they say props, which just means weapons.
And I always wonder, why do they hit me low? And then behind, and why do they knock your food over? It's all in there.
They're just following instructions. Yeah, they're not doing anything, you know, for themselves. You know, do not congregate with other ops or aux ops in a group of more than 2. Do not make prolonged eye contact when in crowds.
Which is why they never talk and why they never. It's all a program.
It's all a plan. It's all acting. It's all play acting.
It's why the communists will never talk to you on camera because they're controlled.
Yep, and it says. They'll update you before aggressiveness should be increased in concert with the law enforcement and the officials. Do not engage with the friendly. This is a great one. Allied law enforcement have been instructed to merely not engage, but have not been told to assist. Same thing that happened in Berkeley. They're not helping the rioters, but they're not.
The gun store is attacked 3 times. We just had on last hour, and the police won't help.
They won't help him, and
He's
they're told not to.
kicking his car, attacking, throwing Bibles that he gives away on top of the building. Nothing is done.
Yeah, and so it just has the chain of command, who's escalating it. This protest against law enforcement is being orchestrated by law enforcement.
Let's come back with Roger, because this is too important. He's got other news to hit, but he wants to cover this. Again, they admit the goal was to trigger a chain reaction of dominoes of martial law, and then Obama could come in, but they failed. America didn't buy it. You know, we're sending out an SOS. George Soros has overthrown more than 10 countries he brags about, the latest Ukraine. He's overthrown financially more than 20. He's a Nazi war criminal. He admittedly funds Antifa, the Islamic groups in the U.S., all of it. And they've got stuff saying overthrow the government, go after the cops, you know, all this stuff before last November. And then you see these documents. So, Harrison, other key points, things we should recap. I mean, they're talking about triggering martial law 3 years ago, back in 2015, 3.5 years ago, so that Obama could basically stay in office. And it turned out that the Justice Department was funding it. They were pushing it. This is their goal, to get America fighting with each other, but it didn't work. I want to get Roger Stone's take on this, but finish up with the documents here. They're now on Infowars.com. Don got the article up, correct? The blurb? We'll put that on screen too. Infowars.com to see these. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Just to go over again the timeline. Obviously, the Ferguson riots that happened as a result of the killing of Mike Brown, I believe. You know, those snowballed and spread to different cities. The people in Baltimore saw this happening, and with the death of Freddie Gray, actually the arrest of Freddie Gray on the 12th, they jumped on this opportunity and either enacted a plan that they had planned previously, or planned at that point this entire insurrection that was taking place in Baltimore.
And it's so crazy. You could see the media scripting it, pushing it, Starbucks saying, you know, tell whites they're bad when you come buy coffee. It was a total hysteria that Jeff Bezos was pushing, all of it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Right, and there you see him destroying some of the storefronts and stuff that were probably pre-planned positions. They're probably being directed by these agitors. Some of one of the things,
and again, it's very racist. You hire, in many cases, they've caught them, hiring black people, but led by the whites in mask, to come out and burn stuff to then create racial division.
Well, and
see, it's a double-sided deal.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, their ultimate goal is obviously division, and I mean, they even say it. It says escalation of civil unrest. It says they want to create an environment where organic conflict can grow. This is what they say.
It.
Yeah, this is what they say their goal is. And these protests were supposedly a reaction to police violence. This is a protest against the police, and yet in these documents, we have the police actually orchestrating and telling the protesters where to go.
And we know the police leader came out and said, we were told by the Justice Department to stand down. Don't be mad at us. Just like D.C. for the inauguration. I want to just stop here because in over an hour and a half, I haven't plugged. I don't even plug anymore sometimes because the news is so hot. It's a paradox. When it's super hot, I just drop plugging and then we don't fund ourselves and then we can't expand. We need to hire more camera people. We need to hire more writers. We need more people like Harrison. Harrison, you know, you've been here how long?
Almost a year in February.
And what, I mean, have you seen us like, what, we had like 20, 30 people since then?
It's been huge since I moved here. It's almost an entirely new office, yeah.
Because so far, I've not paid myself last year. I am literally, we're doing the final accounting, which is fine. I'm putting everything into this and dealing with other attacks behind the scenes. And I'm not bitching. It's great. We just, a lot of money means we can take the globalist on. And you see the great people we're hiring, what we're doing, and the effects we're having. You've got videos you put out with 1 million views, dozens with 500,000 views. Just having you here, and all the people. It's amazing. InfoWarsStore.com, ImmuneWall, our latest high-quality product to boost your immune system naturally. It's amazing. 25% off. We have ended the free shipping as I promised, but they didn't end it. I'm not mad. I tell them to do it, and we're so overwhelmed we haven't done it. So I guess it's still up there, and 50% off. That's why I'm not even plugging the newspapers because they're not up. I'm not mad. We're a small organization. But InfoWarsStore.com, commit to support us. Pray for us. Spread the link. Spread the articles. Roger Stone, I mean, this is incredible because, again, everything in these documents is what they've already admitted they're up to. So it's just crazy. Where do you see this going now as their Russia narrative implodes, as Trump being mentally ill implodes, as their operative Bannon, that we literally discovered as a globalist operative, is ferreted out, but his stay-behinds are still there? I mean, this is incredible.
Look, Alex, we've always understood that this backdrop of violence is what is necessary for the 25th Amendment takedown of our president. These two strategies work hand in glove. My intention, now that I have satisfied myself through my own Army intelligence sources that these documents are real, I'm going to seek comment tomorrow from the office of Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. I want to know whether local law enforcement in Baltimore acquiesced in this plan for violence and to undermine the rule of law. We are going to the governor's office tomorrow for his comment, and I'd like to know what action the Maryland state government is going to take about these clear revelations regarding corruption for the purposes of violence within the Baltimore city government and the Baltimore City Police Department. The whole thing is absolutely breathtaking. You know, Alex, when I went to Hungary and Romania 6 months ago, officials in both places predicted exactly this. Almost word for word. They told me exactly how it worked and that this is what Soros would do. They've seen it in Europe, and they said it's coming your way. Make no mistake about the criminal nature of George Soros and what he has in mind.
Why is this guy not locked? I mean, he's been convicted in a bunch of countries. And his little evil gremlin son, I mean, what is up?
Well, you know, I think that there are some people, unfortunately, that have so much wealth that they live in an aura of protection. George Soros lives in New York City. He could be detained very easily by the FBI, by the New York Police Department. We have here absolute proof of involvement in crimes. It is against the law to advocate the murder of the President of the United States. It's against the law to pay someone else to advocate the murder of the President of the United States or any federal official. Yet Mr. Soros has done that repeatedly, seemingly with impunity.
Well, that's right.
It
Everything in that
boggles the mind.
document, whether it's real or not, is stuff they've all done, and I'm just sick of it. I mean, you know, Antifa's very emboldened now when our reporters are out there walking up going, you scared with guns. That's brandishing right there. That's a felony, man.
And we went to the police station, Owen and I went to the police station to try to file a report about that, and they basically told us, there's nothing we can do about it. In Austin, the local Austin police said, oh, you got to take that to the FBI.
And these are the groups that are literally advocating when they launch their main operation, those stuff was just a beta test, to literally go out when the revolution starts and shoot, each person is supposed to shoot 5 cops a night. And I mean, if the cop unions put up with this, I don't say you deserve it, but God, man up, man. We're standing up against these puds. I'm tired of putting up with them, okay?
Yeah, and
I'm not even some cop worshiper. They're good cops or bad cops. But God almighty, a bunch of communists want to kill you, funded by some evil Nazi collaborator. I'm done, man.
That was one of the things that when I watched the Baltimore riots in 2015, I've always been, very... it's always been important to me to see police brutality and to make that more aware, make people more aware of that and all that sort of stuff. But during the Baltimore riots, I saw these agitators throwing rocks at the police and stuff, and I go, man, this is such a bad tactic. I am suddenly on the side of the police in this situation.
It's insane. Let's go ahead. It was the leftists always priming us against the cops. And then the government passes laws, and we blame the cops for what the laws are. It's our fault. Nine times out of 10. It's not a cop worship. It's just stop scapegoating. It's our problem. We let it happen. Let's do something. Owen Schroyer is about to take over with the War Room and Roger Stone. Owen Schroyer, you want to pop in? Go ahead.
Yeah, I had to pop in when I heard you guys having this conversation because I got privy to something today. Now, if you watched one of our videos when we were covering the Kate Steinle march, there was a gentleman.
That's when they came up with guns and wouldn't let you go to.
Right. So that same day, Alex. And as Harrison just mentioned, we brought this to the police's attention that they were pointing guns at me, clearly breaking the law. I've actually got the law. If this happens again, I've got the law.
Yeah,
I'm going to call the police on it.
You know, we got guns. Yeah, with his finger on the trigger, tapping his finger, I'll tap his.
But get this. That same day, a fellow who was walking side by side with me, he had a handgun, and he got arrested for having a handgun that day.
Now, I remember.
So they arrested a guy who was a conservative for having a handgun, but somehow these individuals who mask their face and point rifles at me get away arrest-free.
Because these are the brown shirts of the dirty city council with their bid rigging and their scams and all their insider garbage. And it's time to go to the bars. It's time to go out. It's time for women, when these guys hit on you that are city officials. You know, you're an operative for America. You're not commanded by anybody. I infiltrated Bohemian Grove, you name it, not run by some agency. It's time for us to run operations against them.
Yeah, it's like...
we need women to infiltrate the Democrats. We just...
Well, but I got to say this, Alex. My hat's off to the guy who has the hammer and sickle on his mask. At least he's telling you exactly what he is, a communist.
That killed 200 million people. I mean, it's like the Nazis were horrible. They killed 30 million. You know, these people have killed hundreds of millions, and we're supposed to kiss their big, fat asses.
They are the ones fomenting revolution, and it's time for the silent majority to demand action.
They want war. They want to kill us. We're just going to info war their butt. Roger, you're going to be on the War Room coming up.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, it starts now.
Questions. Yes, indeed.
Infowars.com/show. Radio stations across the country starting to pick it up. Folks, we're under attack. We're not bitching. We love this fight. But every time you pray for us, buy a product, spread a link, it's just kind of like a video game. Get more power. And they just can't stand it because the more they beat us down, you keep building us up. And it's just like, they blast my fist off. Another one grows. And we're just smashing them thanks to all you guys and the great crew. The War Room's coming up. Infowars.com/show.
Outrage turns bloody in Berkeley. Our KPIX5 crews were right in the middle of the chaos as both Trump supporters and anti-Trump activists come to blows.
Protesters followed Trump supporters to their cars as they left the convention center. Around the corner and away from police protection on San Carlos Street, a mob mentality took over.
You voted Trump! You voted Trump! Yeah!
What do you say to the people who dragged a poor white guy out of a car and beat him?
Oh my goodness, poor white people, please, oh my, stop.
These were pure attacks. Trump supporters, men, women, even the elderly, left this building last night and walked right into danger.
This Trump supporter was the first casualty of the day, with blood streaming out of his face.
Pro-Trump and anti-Trump protesters got into it.
Throwing things at the guy who has a Trump shirt on. Oh, he just got knocked in the back of the head. He just got punched in the face. And now they're rushing him.
We're saying if you're out there and you're trying to represent your First Amendment right to free speech, if somebody comes and attacks you, it's your right to defend yourself.
It got ugly. Violence erupting at the event as fights broke out, fists flying between Trump supporters and anti-Trump supporters. It gets pretty ugly.
Yeah, I want to warn the folks watching at home, you're about to see some very violent footage.
Do you want to fight? You better believe you got one!
Organizers say today's rallies were meant as a show of unity against what they call a seditious fringe, allegedly trying to sabotage the president.
You can see there a FedEx delivery driver jumping in to try to put an end to the protest.
You don't like, get the
It's the strength in numbers. I'll give it to 8 lips. You want to come at, you better be 100 of you against 1 of me, because that's what it's going to take.
This is the heart of 1776. You the one backing up.
Mike in Arizona, you're on the air worldwide. Go ahead.
Oh, Alex, you can rant any day of the week. Thank you, sir, for doing what you do and being a patriot and doing your best to save America and encouraging us as fellow patriots to do that in our local areas as well. And as a longtime InfoWars listener, I want to say thanks for the awesome Brain Force, Anthroplex. My girlfriend would like to say thanks for the Anthroplex, too.
Thank you.
I use the BioTrue Selenium, the Super Blue toothpaste. For you folks who aren't big normal toothpaste fans, the Super Blue is awesome. And thank you so much, Alex, for the InfoWars Life products. They are quality. I can't wait to get some more. And thank you so much for doing that for us to keep us healthy.
Absolutely.
Because then we could all, as educated patriots, help our other countrymen and women understand that there's a bigger problems going on, and if we can get our houses in order and be good to each other and ourselves, we can take our country back.